Hello, everyone, and welcome at the FIDE Women's Candidate Final 2023. Two grandmasters Lei Tingjie and Zhongyi are having incredible games so far. 2 games down and 4 to go. I'm woman grandmaster Kerita Salashvili, and here with me is 12th woman world champion Alexandra Kostining. You guys know her as Chess Queen. Hello, Alexandra. Good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
Let's take a look now at the games and check it out. What do we have here, Alexander? There is one very interesting fact that these two players, Tan Zhongyi and Lei Tingji, are winning the games when they're with white pieces. Do you think they will keep going in this way, or we might have some changes in that sense?
Well, I think some changes are to be expected, but of course, we would love to see all 6 games decisive, followed by a very decisive tiebreak. Well, I'm not sure that's gonna continue this way, but definitely we're rooting for it. Lei, after a wonderful comeback yesterday, will be playing with black pieces today, and we'll see what Tan prepared for game number 3.
That's right. And we do have only 4 games left. In case if we have tie, if they continue to have all the decisive results, then in the end we might see the tie breaks with a different time control. But that's the talk for the future. Now let's take a look at the head-to-head scores and check it out. What is the situation here? Tan Zhongyi is a slight favorite in the classical chess, but they are teammates. They are from the same city where, by the way, the tournament is happening in China, and they have played a lot of tournaments alongside to each other, next to each other as a teammates, but not too much against each other. But here, Alexandra, we were talking a lot about their age, Lei's age, that she's so young, and this is something that makes her favorite in the match. And then on the other hand, there is Tan Zhongyi, who is very experienced, and we can also consider her a favorite in the match. Do you think, as the tournament is now getting um, more and more, we're getting more and more rounds, one of these factors will be decisive here, the age or the experience?
Well, we'll definitely see something decisive. Not sure what. I wouldn't say that Lei is very young. I mean, 26, I think, is the perfect age. She's already had, she's gotten enough experience, but at the same time, yes, she's, well, still younger than Tan Zhongui. It can be. It can help her, especially in the longer run. But again, experience does matter a lot.
Mhm.
I've highlighted many times already that Tan Zhongui has this world championship match experience. She played against Ju Wenjun. She lost to her, but nevertheless, it's very important to sometimes understand what to expect, how to prepare for a match. If you hadn't played the match before, you wouldn't know certain details. You might not be ready to prepare mentally to find this right mindset. But as we seen in the first 2 games, Lei is doing great. So far, yes, she lost the first game, but we remember that she was actually the one pressing there throughout most of the game. And yesterday, despite the fact that she missed some better opportunities, she kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally then made this final mistake and Lei even she was able to even the score. It's 1-1 before the game 3, and I'm very excited to see what Dan is going to do now, how she's going to open this game, what she prepared for this event.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'm myself very much curious if they will just go easy on each other and make a draw before the rest of the day and then come back with the heavy forces for the last 2 games, last 3 games. Or they will just keep it pushing and they have still enough energy to play long game, just last two. Well, talking about their age, I think they are old enough to manage their money, because in this tournament there is a huge money pool, 250,000 euros overall total prize fund, and the champion will get 60,000 euros, runner up will get 50,000 euros, and also the prizes for the third to fourth place or fifth to the eighth place is also quite nice and tempting to get at this point, to get at the candidates tournament and fight for the best prizes. Alexandra, this is the highest prize for the women's candidate tournament. Do you believe that this progress can continue for women in chess?
Well, let's stay an optimist, right? In this case, as we've already discussed the prizes, I've mentioned that when I was starting playing chess, and it was significantly lower. And thanks to some events such as a knockout championship that brought a lot of controversy, and women's champion title, well, was decided in a knockout event, but nevertheless, prizes because of this change raised significantly, and now the system had been changed back. Now we again have this World Championship match at the as the peak of all those qualification events, and together and along with the candidates, with the Grand Prix series, this match of course adds up like some prestige and some money for women's chess, and I think it's very important, and I do hope it's gonna continue climbing up.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the questions from the journalists after the match would be how you're going to spend your money. People usually likes to get into these details, more personal details about the players. I'm myself also very much curious about that. Alexandra, we're going to talk about all these things, how chess players are dividing their prizes that they're getting from the chess tournament. For sure, they are giving it back for chess trainings and for chess tournaments as well. But before that, let's take a look now at the format of this tournament. So what we have for the event, it is 6 games. 2 has been already done, 4 to go, and the player who gets 3.5 points wins the match and goes to the finals against the current women world champion Ju Wenjun. The championship starts in July 3rd this year and will be another very exciting event in the women's world. So this is the situation for now, and here we have the playing venue, the chess board, they are ready. I see Lei Tingjie has already arrived, and the copy of Tanzhong is also there. And here we have Tanzhong on the screen. Alexandra, how important is this last seconds before the round? Sometimes you're looking at your opponent, sometimes you're avoiding to look. Look at this. Tanzhong clearly gave some looks, and Lei just tries to concentrate on the board. Do you think there is a small battle before the game starts with this staring?
Well, I was taught that to stare at your opponent is not really ethical, and
Mhm.
it's changed a little bit. There are many players, especially younger players, who stare all the time. And again, we can discuss and go on about this. Certain the stare looks, they don't really disturb me, but I prefer not to look straight into my opponent's eyes. Of course, sometimes you like glance over your opponent, especially if he or she makes a move you consider to be bad or you didn't
Hmm.
expect, or there's some strange behavior going on. So there are many nuances, right? We don't hear what's going on in the play area. We just see this picture of two players standing, sitting next to the chessboard, and well, I can assure you there are many other things going on right now around these players not being there. I mean, physically, it's hard to evaluate, the position correctly, if we
Mhm.
will. But of course, every small detail might be very important. Of course, it's very good if a chess player can completely focus and is not disturbed by some extra activities such as the first move, etc., such as
Right.
photographers. But sometimes, and I know it from my own very bitter experience, that
Yes.
even little thing, can get you out of this concentration mood that is so important. But okay, the game started. We see the first move d4, and it's a classical game, meaning that the players get more time, right? Even if they're like disturbed right now by these photographers flashes some extra attention around their board, they will have time to calm down. The photographers are gonna leave in 5 to 10 minutes, and then they can sit, think, relax, and get into this right mindset, right mood to find the best moves.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, first few moves, you already know what you're gonna play, and you have some expectations from your opponents too. It's like purely preparation, and you can just not be fully very much focused as you need during the calculation during the middle game. Here the first move is a d4. Before the start of the commentary, we were talking we will see 1c4 again, because that what happened in the first game, where Tanzhongi opened up the game with 1c4 and Lei Tingjie replied with e5, and we had the English defense, English opening. It's not a defense. Apologies for that. And then uh we were talking about that, and you predicted that very likely it will not happen again for this round three. And there we go, Tanzhangi played d4. They are blitzing out the moves. Let's take a look very quickly what is happening. How come that they are playing so fast all these moves?
Well, it's fancy opening, we can say nowadays, and as uh, one could expect, the game started with another first move, not the first c4. Yes, I told you I didn't expect Tan to repeat the same setup as in the first opening. Yes, she won the game, but it didn't feel like it was something, prepared for the whole match. So the first d4 didn't surprise me at all. D5, c4, Queen's Gambit, and Queen's Gambit declined, right? Black didn't take on c4. She played e6. She protected the central pawn like this. Knight c3, and well, every single move there are different crossroads. Yes, I mean, sides choose what direction to go to, and here Black opts for a very sharp and surprising in a way move, c5, because
Mhm.
it's a tower's defense, but usually you kind of see this opening with these two knights already on f3 and f6, and thus the knight on f6 is protecting the pawn on d5. But Black doesn't care about this pawn hanging. For example, after d takes c5, um, this pawn
Mhm.
right now is not protected enough, right? So it's Black has to decide what to do. I'm not sure. Probably their idea is to play d4, and then or d takes c4. Do you know this like opening line? Because you're a d4 player. Do you know how Black react here in case White just grabs this pawn on c5?
I usually don't give up my center like that, so I know the
Yeah, I
lines that
know,
I
but
play
do you
here.
play d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3 as white, or knight f3?
Yes,
Knight
I go
c3.
sometimes knight c3, sometimes
Okay,
knight
and
to
after
e3.
c5, well, do you know why this pawn is not to be taken?
No, I don't really know, but seems like it's still a theory. And look, what is just happening? Black just
Yeah, that's
Some
okay.
people can think blunder the piece,
No. We'll
but
get back to it, but I'm just showing because that's sometimes nowadays we jump over this opening move so fast that we don't really ask ourselves what's going on. But in
yeah.
the game, we see exactly the same idea, and here it's like um, uh, that's the main idea of black apparently in this line. If white at some point takes on c5, because I mean, if black takes, there is a pawn hanging, right? So
Right.
they don't want to give up a pawn just for free. So they want to play d4, and after knight e4, they want to take on c5, and that's, I think, what is happening in the game, right?
Hmm.
In a little bit different order. And they want to win back the sacrifice piece with a double attack uh, and continue like this. I mean, something entirely new for me, for myself. I'm not aware of this line at all. So let's see what actually already happened in the
Hmm.
game. Knight f3, knight c6. D takes c5, so finally white takes, right, on c5. They want to take on d5 in case black takes on c5, d4, knight a4, and we see the same kind of idea where with such an interesting tactical motive, black first sacrifices a bishop, but it's only temporarily, and black wins back the sacrifice piece 2 moves later. And now we have this position, and I suppose that's a very well known theoretical position.
It
Again,
is. It is
mhm.
actually here. There have been played several games. White can go a4, and white is going fully on the queen side, or white can also go with queen to a4 to try pin this knight on c6. So, Alexandra, what does this line tells you, and also the time situation? This is the first time in 3 games where Lei Tingjie is now 3 minutes increment on the clock, because usually she's taking some time. Tan Zhongyi always surprises her, but now she has more time on the clock. And I made a little research right away when they started to play. Lei Tingji is the Slav player. She likes to play Slav defense, or she likes to play the positions with g6 and bishop g7 setup. So this is something new. She just prepared this, and I cannot find in database the game where Tanjangi played against c5.
Mhm.
So we can predict in this game it is Lei Tingji's preparation. This is how she wanted things to go.
Well, definitely it's her preparation. And again, what I see that, well, it's been a trend, we can say, nowadays, especially not only in women's chess, but in the top level chess, that players tend to choose very direct and forced lines, to be able to prepare as well as possible, because there are
Mhm.
so many forced variations in such lines where a lot of pieces get exchanged, and if you're very well prepared, you can analyze them, you can look through them almost to the very, very end, or like to an
Mhm.
end game. And this is certainly this kind of line where black starts, putting the pressure and offering all those exchanges straight away, because yes, you can play something like knight f6, right? You can play something like c6, but even in the previous game we saw that Tan quite early she just captured on c4 and went also to some kind of a forced line, forced opening, where these complications they start straight away. Here the
Mhm.
same story. C5 is a very straightforward way, so we see a lot of tension in the center. Pawns attack each other, and after c takes d5, e takes d5, some more exchanges happened, and now it's like already 4 pawns gone, one pair of pieces exchanged, and it's only move 11. And yes, indeed, Lei is continuing to blitz out, trying to show to her opponents. It's also a psychological battle, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
that I checked briefly. B4 is not the most common way here, is not the most played way, if you wish. To continue with white, but Tan showed her opponent that okay, it's quite a rare line, but I'm prepared. I have this move before that actually Ding Lizhen used in last year in the super tournament, and Lei continued blitzing out the moves queen b6, although there were other games where the queen went to the other side of the board. And look, the players continue as they've already played, I don't know, a few dozens of games already for this in
It's
this
like they
position.
have the training session before this match and now they're playing.
Yeah,
Same thing.
exactly.
It is so interesting, Alexandra. What they're doing, this is all theory. To me, e3 is such a weird move. And take f2 e3, isolated this pawn, weakened the king. I'm sorry, I just don't understand what's going on. And rook to b8. Like, who plays rook to b8? Why you haven't castled yet? This is all theory. It has so much of the meanings, all of these moves. So let's start from queen to a4 now. After queen a4, black played a6, right? And okay, why would you play a6?
Yeah,
Why need this
there are
prophylaxis?
exactly, there are so many questions, and we are like, well, the players are like cruising through all those moves, but I think we have time to understand what's actually going on, because like for us, for me, this position, okay, it's not for the first time that I see it, but I've definitely I haven't analyzed it thoroughly. I haven't checked it out. So it's interesting to actually try to understand what's going on, right? Because, for example, before, okay, but white puts this pawn. I mean, it's possible to take it. Well, we know that it's quite risky, right, to take a pawn. Moving one of your pieces twice in the opening, but still, we at least have to try to understand what are White's ideas and what would they do if Black simply takes? Well, knight c2 is threatening,
Mhm.
right? And if
Yeah,
White
probably rook
plays,
to
yes,
c1.
if White plays queen a4 with a double attack, then knight c6. So there
Yeah.
is nothing protecting the knight, the pawn, and everything seems to be okay. So yes, rook c1. Okay, queen e7, for example, and look, if there is knight d4, there is knight d3. So it's a
Ooh,
checkmate.
beautiful.
So you,
Beautiful.
yes, you always got to be careful about such tricks, right?
Yeah,
You
you
have,
have to. Yeah. I love this modern checkmate. Queen a4, knight c6, and rook c6 might be the move, but there's bishop to d7. This is so much of the complications here.
right, and but it seems that White's idea is just simply, try to play e3, open up the pieces, and then try to attack. And use the fact that Black's pieces are not developed so well yet. But again, I'm sure it's all been prepared.
Alexandra, I
Yes,
am afraid they gonna end this game very soon because
very
they're
soon.
playing so fast.
Yeah, I
They are
see.
trading all the pieces. Look at this board. Just right below us, you guys. This is the live game, this small board, and the other game we're using for the analysis. So you guys have both of the boards on the screen. And I feel like they are going to the position when they both know it is equal and they might make a draw. However, look at this situation. Look at the current situation. Today in this game, it is Zhongyi who has the pair of bishop advantage. And she has tasted the power of the pair of bishops yesterday. Even though the game was so equal, Lei was pressing all the time. It was a lot of threats from her side, and then Tanjangi in the drawish position, in the equal position, she just blundered, unfortunately. And today she is going into the position where she's the one who has pair of bishop. Do you think she's happy with this position?
Well, I mean, she definitely went for it, right? She's definitely prepared it, or at least had a plan to go in this direction at home, because she played out this opening move so fast. Um, I'm not sure how happy she is, how surprised she was at her opponent to use this line.
Mhm.
Let's see, because again, when she played before, try to back up a little bit. For some reasons, there were not so many games with Queen B6. Probably it was considered to be a little bit dubious due to this possibility of Queen A4, right? Pinning the knight, preparing b5, putting some pressure on this d4 pawn. But this a6 move, along with capturing on e3, and here white cannot take with the bishop because of simply queen takes b4. So white is almost forced to take with the f pawn. Well, and then this pawn is more like a weakness in the long run. And then here, black plays a very surprising, in a way, and very calm move, rook b8, unpinning this pawn on a6, preparing for the upcoming b5 in order to be able to capture the pawn with the pawn. And yes, indeed, now we have this endgame, and that's what I mentioned by saying when you play such direct lines, when there are many, many forced and concrete variations, you often end up in an endgame. It doesn't mean that the game will finish in the two next moves. No, as you highlighted, white has power of two bishops, a two bishops pair, and they do hope, yes, to use them to their maximum. And yes, we do recall the previous game where Lei managed to outplay her opponent by posing the small little problems every single move. Whether it's going to be able, whether Tan is going to be able to do the same today, well, we'll see. But I can
Mhm.
assure you that that's not the end of Lay's preparation. Look how fast she's playing. She has 1 hour, 34 minutes. So it's like 4 additional minutes before she started. But remember that 30 seconds are added up every time she makes a move. And I'm sure she's played dozens of training games with this end game, so she knows what to expect, where her pieces are supposed to go, what she should be doing. I'm sure she will continue to show her preparation, and that's an advantage of such openings. You can really get yourself very well prepared.
Yeah, I agree with that. That this is gonna be a very long game with these bishops on the board. It just started. They made the move so fast. Alexandra, what we will not see for sure today is this time scrambles, which was such a nice thing for us, for commentators and the spectators the other day. But this is already move 16, and so far, Lei Tingjie has not spent any second. She's on increment 4 minutes. Tanzhangi has spent 5 minutes on the board for 16 moves. That's gives us the hint that we might not have the time situations in this game, but this might be another very good experience, very good example of the pair of bishop advantage that very often a lot of people are asking, like, why this is advantage, like what's the idea behind that. There's an interesting question in the chat. Let's bring it out. So, what happens after bishop c3, which is so logical move to go after the knight on f6? And if
Yeah.
black castles, to
Mhm.
take this knight on f6, pawn takes f6 and castle, and to press on f6 weakness, black has these doubled pawns on f-file.
Yes, actually, I checked in the database. There was one game like this after the 16th move in 2022 between Kirill Shevchenko and Song Yu in Biel. They played and they got into this position actually. And Black played Bishop d7 first, Bishop c3, Knight f6. There was, and yeah, White captured on f6, and they got this very weird pawn structure. So there was something
Mm.
like this. But White wasn't able to win, and
I
the
was
game
just
ended in a draw, but it was a pretty long game.
thinking, Alexandra,
Mhm.
we don't know the seconds of the players and the the coaches for sure they want to keep it secret, but if there's one game in database and that's the game from Chinese player from black side,
I'm not
maybe
sure
that's
it's a
the
Chinese
team.
player though. I'm not
Okay.
sure. It can be a player from, I don't know, Asia or somewhere, Singapore, or
Mm,
I'm not sure. I've never heard of this player, but yeah, it might be an indication of him helping Lei, for example, but it's just speculation.
yeah.
Probably like these players know more. I'm sure they know more about their opponent's seconds. And well, Tang, she was helped by Yu Yangyi, at least in one of the Grand Prix tournaments in Astana. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if she's working with this strong grandmaster like permanently or not. And that's actually a very interesting topic to discuss because, as far as I am aware, there is a very interesting system in China. So if there is like a talented player, women's player, um, usually she's kind of attached to a grandmaster, and they work together, work alone. This grandmaster is helping her, and this gives great results.
Hmm.
And again, about prizes you talked, and I know that Chinese players, they pay a lot of taxes. Well, most of us do, but for that the government kind of pays for their work and for their preparation. So
Okay, that's nice. That's really
that's
big
nice, and
support.
you never know what's actually more, what's better, right? To pay a lot of taxes, but all your like traveling and educational and preparational expenses are being paid, or if you don't pay taxes at all but you need to pay for everything
Mm.
on your own. So it's a very long discussion, and there are, as always, advantages and disadvantages on both ends. And if we get back to the game, we see that Tan didn't think for a very long time, and she played 95 very, very fast. In the games that I mentioned, there was bishop d7, right? Played. First, black decided to protect himself from this pin, and only after bishop c3 he played knight f6. But we saw that in the game, Lei blitzed out this move knight f6, and here after knight e5, for the first time in this game, well, it's about time, right? Move number 17, she is starting to think.
Yes, this indicates to me that maybe knight f6 that you just pointed out that Lei blitz this move might be a bit of inaccuracy. Sometimes we are just uh, remembering the lines, but uh, just switching the move order, and that can change something. Maybe
Yeah.
not too much as the engine bar says, like it's fine, you can handle this 95, but you guys, the players don't have the access on the engines. And imagine if you have a preparation and then you somehow change the move order and your opponent presses on you, that might be a little bit unpleasant. Alexander,
Right.
after this move 95, here, if black plays bishop d7 now, then white will be very happy to capture this bishop and play something like king to e2 or king to f2, two bishops together with two rooks. That's a very good position. But here, I glanced over the engine line, and the engine says, castle, please. Give up the pawn, and this is a fine position for you because white king is stuck in the center. And if you castle, then black's rook will have the access on the b file. Shall we show this line like after castle?
Yeah, I will. I just will add up a little bit about what you were saying, that indeed memory sometimes plays like very bad tricks with you. You're so sure that you're following a line that you analyzed at home, and then suddenly, I mean, you get yourself into trouble. And when you go back and you check your opening preparation, there was absolutely no such line, or you mixed up a move order, or you kind of forgot what you actually had planned and did something else. So yeah, those tricks and those unpleasant moments, that exist, especially nowadays when like there is huge amount of all those opening theory. And indeed, right here, right now, it seems that castle is the only good move for black, sacrificing this pawn. But after bishop takes e6, there is a very strong bishop a6 move, not letting white castle. And with the idea after king to f2, play rook b2, pinning this bishop. And then there are some ideas after, for example, rook h to d1, pin it like that again. And indeed, computer gives very, very big well, it says that
Potential here for black, yeah, for sure, because even the engine says is equal here. Just imagine playing this position with white pieces. You are stacked, you are pinned, and black has some of the nice checks, like let's say knight to g4. There is some nice moves that bishop can also get into the game, bishop c4 and so on. Like it might be a bit difficult to play and navigate in this position, even though white has a pair of bishop advantage and also extra pawn on the a file. Still, the other factors also matter in chess, such as like active rooks. Look at these rooks for black.
yes, exactly. I'm a little bit surprised to see Lei thinking right now, because when you make knight f6, normally you should be prepared for knight e5, right? And I'm sure she's analyzed it at home. But again, taking this time to think, taking this time to stop is very important, because sometimes you continue blitzing out those moves, trying to prove to your opponent that you know better than her, and then you end up in all those troubles that I just mentioned. And that's why, and sometimes when you like sitting at the chessboard looking at all those lines, calculating variations, you start asking yourself like different questions. What would you do if your opponent plays this or that, that you don't really consider when analyzing with a computer at home? You happen to see things quite differently when you play an over the board game and when you sit in front of the computer.
Yeah. Actually, while we were covering the chess part, Alexandra, there was very interesting a picture on the camera. While Lei was thinking, Tanjongi had a small work, and Niger in our chat, our colleague streamer, pointed out that she likes very much Tanjongi's long dress. There was something very, very cute. Maybe if we have footage of that some other time, we can show it on the screen. And another topic here, which we can discuss besides the chess, as now Lay's taking deep think how important it is to feel, to feel very confident in your clothes and very comfortable as well, as you have played all the possible tournaments, Alexandra, that a professional chess player could play, starting from the World Championship tournament. What is your preferences? What would you like to wear? And if you think that there should be some kind of dress code for the players, or it should be just up to the players to choose their clothes, which makes them feel very confident and comfortable.
Who knows? This kind of questions, I don't know. They made me wonder why we never discuss clothes that men wear during their tournaments. It's a little bit strange, but yeah, okay. I mean, I
They don't
am a
have
woman. I
pretty
like to talk
dressings. That's
about
the
clothes,
problem.
but yes, we're here to watch like almost a world championship match, and it feels for me more reasonable to discuss what's going on the board. But I've mentioned many times in my interviews that, of course, what you wear, especially for a woman, is very important, because indeed it gives you self confidence. And here we can talk about. How being confident is important in chess. It really gives you like almost 100 extra rating points. And where you get those those confidence. Is another question. Yes, for many women, their look is their main motivation. By the way, like Castled. So we might see this position, although I don't believe that White is gonna dare to capture on c6 twice. So it's very important to be confident in chess in general for women. As I said, if she looks good, usually it's like gives you this needed confidence. There are sometimes other ways to work on your confidence and not connected with your clothes. And discussing dress code, there's so much, drama every single time when players are required to wear certain or not to wear certain things over a chess tournament. Again, I don't know. I'm not. I mean, if there are rules, I follow them. Looking good or putting or not putting certain type of clothes don't really bother me so much, but there are other players who prefer not to wear a jacket if they're playing blitz, and I totally understand them. But just I'm so surprised every single time those questions arise, because they usually arise on World Rapid and Blitz championships,
Yeah.
and they should be discussed in between those championships. Right now, if players don't agree with this rules, they should write letters to FIDE and propose, make a discussion, a poll, or whatever they want to do, but not when this tournament is starting. And now it's quiet, nobody is discussing this issue. And then in December, when the World Rapid and Blitz will be starting, there's going to be again so much noise, and white t-shirts are not allowed, and we want to play Blitz and sneakers, and so on and so on. It's reasonable, it's understandable, but okay, let's discuss it now. Let's discuss it well, everyone knows that there are going to be some tournaments with the same regulations, and let's do it. So yeah, all those questions, interesting questions. But if getting back to what I wear, usually I wear what I feel comfortable myself in, right? And this level of comfort is very individual, and it depends really on the player. If what she's or he's feeling well himself or herself in, and that's the most important point.
Yeah, I can't agree more, because you're spending 5 hours sometimes, if not more, on the chessboard, and you need to feel, first of all, very, very comfortable, and also confident. In many cases, it brings a lot of confidence in the people. Yeah, that's actually the chat suggested chess and fashion match. When that could be really interesting. When meanwhile, Alireza gets into the business, and he made this statement that he is very interested in fashion. So that's another story, another big news in chess world. Why not to have such a news in the chess world? But well, yeah, basically, we're very much focused on chess, and I'm so happy that we have such a long game here. The time control is the classical time control, and we are here and happy to cover all the interesting topics around the chess. If you guys have any questions in our chat on YouTube or Twitch, go ahead and ask the questions. We are here to read and answer the questions. And let's go back to the chess part, Alexandra. Here, these two players are taking a little bit slow. Tan Zhongyi has invested like 10 minutes on the clock, and Lei Tingjie has already also thought some time, and she made the correct move, castle. Now she's threatening knight to e5, and we just finding out that knight c6 is not the best option here. Is there any other move? Can Tanjangi here somehow play the move, which is useful? Something like bishop c3 would be nice move to play.
No, knight c3, bishop c3, I'm sorry, seems to be a little bit slow because, well, first of all, there are different ideas connected with rook e8, and then there are ideas connected with knight d5, so it doesn't seem as a good place for the bishop. Um, in, I would still consider, I mean, if White spent so much time, moving with her knight and getting to this knight on c6 to capture on c6, but then just retreat the bishop probably would be a safer option, because after bishop c6, as I showed you, there are different lines and black start to jump and to attack straight away. While here, okay, well,
Bishop rook to b2 seems to be really annoying here, even in this position.
yes,
Don't you
exactly.
think?
Yes, still you need to consider, but actually there is a castle possibility. I can castle. I
No.
always, feel scared when this square is under like attack. But we know that a castle is a king's move, so the king shall not get
Mm.
through a square that is under attack. And here it's possible to attack. And here we see that the bishop actually protects the pawn on a2, and this a pawn can at the end be these decisive factors that we're always looking and searching for. Uh, so so
Yeah, this
yeah,
is
so rook.
actually the
Mhm,
fancy move to castle on the long side.
exactly.
To to be honest, I would prefer this king to be on the short side if I were white, and then to push this pawn with the help of the rook. But it's
Yes.
so fancy move you cannot
No,
really.
you're gonna kick out this rook, then you're gonna play king c2 and back, I mean, up your pawn with the rook again. So
But
yeah.
Alexandra, here's the moment. If
Mhm.
you're Tan Zhongyi and you castle here and then play king to c2, you might be afraid because Lei Tingjie makes this bishop f5 move, bishop f4 move, which is
And
crucial
okay.
for you. So maybe Tan Zhongyi is watching out for the bishop moves here.
Chess is a very concrete game, right? Sometimes you really need to calculate and forget your emotions. Yes, it might be scary, but as long as you're not checkmated immediately, everything might be
Possible.
okay. But okay, now it's Tan's turn to um, move. She's thinking. And if we're getting back to this fashion question, I have a question to you, Kat, as a spectator.
Mhm.
What would you prefer? Do you think like it's a good dress code that we have at this World Rapid and Blitz, especially, and on all other uh, like important classical chess events? To um, have players in suits and like informal business
Mhm.
dress code, or it would be totally okay, maybe even more interesting for you as a spectator to watch like people in crazy neon t-shirts, wearing sneakers, wearing those ripped jeans, and like putting, I don't know, crazy accessories. What would be your pick?
Well, I have to start with I'm a clothes maniac. I love clothes very much. And that has been always something that makes me happy, makes me confident. And Alexandra, I have been in a situation where I was getting a lot of critics because of me liking to change the clothes for the games. Chess players sometimes tends to be superstitious, and they are wearing the same things because they won the game. And when I was playing youth categories and youth tournaments, I always had the biggest bag together with my friend, very good friend. A lot of people knows Sopiko Guramishvili. We were friends. We were shopping together, and we would like to dress nicely, and like helping each other to get some clothes. When we were little kids, actually our mothers were getting us the same clothes, and very often we were looking like twins because we were wearing the same clothes. So it's like a it was a thing for me and for her and for our friendship. I really loved to have different clothes, and very often there was some talks from from some like head of delegations or coaches or the parents of the other kids that I was at the chess tournaments for fashion shows, which was really tough for me as a kid. And I was always wondering what's wrong to look good and win chess game, because for me this was purely the confidence. I was feeling very, very confident. I would not feel comfortable with I don't know, some other clothes. And there was always a big struggle for me as a kid, but now at this age I really don't care what others would say about my fashion shows. But I really like to see chess players having their individualism in closes.
Yeah,
And for
diversity, right?
instance, yes, like even though there is some kind of dress codes we have at the tournaments, for instance, Leon Oronian is the player when he has his style, you know, these colorful shirts. There's also Vasily, so where he has always some details, some fashion details that I really, really like very much. I have to admit that I also like the way you are dressing at the tournament. So it's like I like it. And these days, chess players are on cameras for hours and hours. And besides the fact that there are like some people who are admiring you as a chess player and as a person, there's also the sponsor side of the element. Like we need to attract as much sponsors as the other sports are having, and I think this is a good opportunity for everyone to, you know, to be looking nicely. Why not? And yeah, I think it's a nice topic. It's the topic that there's no right and wrong side, right? You can, I totally understand for those players who want to feel comfortable in their sport shoes. Myself, I don't feel comfortable in sport shoes. I feel more comfortable when I have a bit of high heels. And yeah, it's really up to the people. But I am sure for the events, which are the official, like this one, for instance, there can be some kind of like dress codes. For instance, for the photo sense, like let me just say this one sentence, and we're moving from fashion. For instance, if you are wearing the shirt with these stripes, it gives you very bad photos because it's the camera has some kind of reflection, or there are a lot of details. If you wear it too bright, it can also be too shiny in the camera. So that's why we have these dress codes to look, make us better, and not to struggle too much
Yeah, so you
before the
see, we
game to
can talk for
choose.
hours, right, about
Yes,
those
I love
fashion
fashion talks.
moments. And of course, I mean, I'm not sure about our spectators, but we always like pay attention to those small details, what the player is wearing. It doesn't matter what tournament we're watching, right? Men playing, women playing, we always like notice the small details. Yeah, and I'm obsessed about this. Just white and black squared, pattern. Oh, my husband is making laugh on me at me all the time because I see it everywhere. You know, I go and say, "Oh, chess, oh, chess," and he's, "Oh my God, how do you notice those, like, I don't know, those small things like hidden in the show?"
Yeah,
But
it's
I
called.
always do. This always gets my attention, and I love it. I mean, there are some chess players who just, I mean, professional chess players who think about chess all the time, who play chess, who analyze chess. They don't want to hear about chess anymore outside of chess. They don't want to see any like chess related stuff. They don't want to talk about or watch chess movies or read a chess book. And I'm not. I'm just, if there is like a chess movie, if there is a chess novel, oh yeah, it's for me. So
Yeah.
definitely chess
It
fan here.
that
Yeah.
yeah, just one. Well, this is also a very, very interesting topic, and the chat has a lot of suggestions. But back to the chess. Tanzhangi is taking so much of the time, guys, and this gives us the opportunity to take our first break. The players are not having any breaks; they are keeping to play, and I hope that the moment they are back, we are back. Actually, they're always here. We're
Exactly.
gonna have a lot of moves, Lei Tingjie and Tanzhangi on the screen. You guys don't go anywhere because all the action's gonna start right now.
Playing online wasn't a fun experience for me. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I played on ICC or I played on Play Chess. It was great. But like, I wasn't a chess professional. Some of it felt too fast. Some of it felt like, oh, you gotta know like console commands to like start a game or challenge someone. It just didn't feel like inviting. It felt like a gated thing. At the same time, the web was changing. So there was these kind of new technologies that were happening, and there was other stuff on the internet. You know, there was like super cool blogs, and there was like great news sites, and there were bloggers, and you know, there was chess content. It was emerging. So I was like, all right, Jay, let's do this. Like, let's build our own thing and do it. You know, this is not a knock on what anyone else was doing. It was working really well for some people. But again, for me, where I sat, what I wanted, temperature of porridge I wanted in this story did not exist. And I wanted something that felt just right at home. And that's what drove me to build what I wanted as a chess fan. I started a chess teaching business in elementary schools where I wrote a curriculum and I hired instructors and I would get kids excited for chess and they would go do that. And we ended up doing chess in like 100 schools. And this is while I was going to college. That kind of led to this opportunity where I was like, man, I'm like buying a lot of chess sets and there's a lot of interest in chess. Maybe I can get a discount if I buy them from China. And so I started buying and importing chess equipment from China. I started a website called Wholesale Chess where we were selling chess equipment online. This is long before Amazon was like selling everything. And I did the business, the teaching business, and then I did the e-commerce business. And then while I was doing the e-commerce business, I was like, oh, this is getting really tough to like pay for ads and compete. And I was like, oh, I really want to do a chess community because then people will come for the community, but they'll also buy some stuff. So it'll work as like a self-sustaining business model. Plus, as a chess fan, like, where's my home? Like, I wanted the MySpace of chess. I ended up buying the domain name chess.com out of bankruptcy for $56,000. So we started building like the MySpace of chess. We were building a chess community, and that's kind of how chess.com got born. And that's kind of my interest in chess was like, as a business, as an e-commerce, as a fan, as a community member, as someone who was playing on other sites like Yahoo Chess and stuff and was very unhappy with it. I wanted a place that felt like home for me. And that's my relationship with chess and chess.com in a nutshell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is FIDE Women's Candidates Final 2023. We can see now on the screen Tan Zhongyi with white pieces. She is taking her time. This is game 3, and so far the match is tied to 1-1. And this day is very important for the players because after this round they're gonna have a rest day, and it's very important to have a nice feeling before the rest day and to score at least a half a point, not to lose the game. Well, Tan Zhongyi on the screen, this is a grandmaster from China. Now let's take a look at some of the detailed information about her. She is the reigning women rapid chess champion, a very strong chess player, very strong chess player in the fast time control, but also in the classical chess player, as she is the women's world champion in 2017 and 2018 years. And she has qualified to the candidates tournament Pool B because she was in top 3 at the FIDE World Cup. Besides that, Alexander, she has won a lot of youth competition, and she is in the top list of the chess players for many years. And now she's trying to get another title by winning this match and go to the World Championship match against Ju Wenjun. Very strong player.
Yeah, and a very experienced one. Although I remember some rumors a few years ago when people were saying that she's about to quit playing
Mhm.
chess professionally. But I think this kind of rumors can be applied to almost any player on a very high level because, well, it's hard to compete all the time, to push yourself all the time, to face those defeats, which are unavoidable and inevitable in the case you are playing against very strong opponents. So, yeah, a life of a professional chess player is something special. Not every single person can like it, but okay, yes, um, we can see positive things again, we can see negative things, and that's why it's so important, to actually focus on the positive side of this work, of this profession, which is quite an unusual profession, I must say. And people do ask me, what is your profession? Sometimes I say, well, I'm a professional chess player, and they say, okay, but what do you do for living? So, and this kind of dialogue, it's quite common, especially here in Europe when I'm currently residing. So yeah, that happens. And back to Tan Zhongyi, yes, she's a very experienced player. She had a lot of success on both individual and, of course, team levels. And well, we see her playing in the final candidates, in the final of this candidates 2020 to 2023. She also was one of the participants in the very first candidates tournament of this century, we can say, back in 2019. uh, I remember her playing in Kazan back there. It was an interesting event that was won by Alexandra Goryachkina. And by the way, in this candidates, right, it was Tan Zhongyi who eliminated Alexandra on her way to the final, on her second attempt to play a world championship match. She definitely has some
Yeah.
power to win against very best. And now, well, I would not say she's in trouble, right, immediately, but she's definitely facing a very hard choice because we see Lei's clock. We know she's analyzed this position. She might have even played a few games with this position, training games, right? And it's always unpleasant to have your king in the center when there are so many pieces around, even if it's an endgame. There can be some
Yeah,
direct
absolutely.
attacks, even in endgames. So hard choice, long thought, and we'll see what she will come up with.
Yeah, I agree with that. White's king still is not safe, and she needs to keep it into safety. And to do that, if things are going in the way Tan Zhongyi planned, then she will go to face in the World Championship match against Ju Wenjun, which, by the way, Alexander, she has lost the title too. So our chat says this is gonna be so nice rematch from Tan Zhongyi if she qualifies to the World Championship match and tries to challenge again the current women's world champion, who is also from China, and she is very strong chess player, one of the few chess players who has female chess players who has crossed 2600 FIDE rating barrier. That happened in March 2017, and she is a grandmaster who reached this title at the age of 23. When we're talking about the age to reach the grandmaster title, one of our participants, Lei Tingjie, has achieved this title when she was 19 years old. So this as a very very strong tradition in China of chess, how strong they are. Besides the fact we do have also a lot of women chess champions from China, and yeah, Ju Wenjun is waiting for her match. The match will start in July, but also the other fact that we were talking so much about, that she has not played chess for years already internationally. Very likely she's playing some leagues in China, local tournaments, but not internationally. And for chess, it is important to have the tournaments abroad to play against the players around the world, because it's like the variety of the chess players, and you are seeing all the styles and yeah, experiencing all these things. Ju Wenjun very much waiting for the match, and now focusing on. I believe she's very much focused on this match. She might get some of the hints, and maybe her team is working right now to
Yes,
find out
yes.
some of the holes of these lines that these two players are playing. We never know what's the process right now. I think
Yeah, let
it's a
me
lot
add a
of
few
things.
words about Ju
Sure.
Wenjun, because actually she's the only, if I'm not mistaken, women's world chess champion who, after winning a knockout event back in November 28, who, after winning a world championship match in May 2018 against Tan Zhongyi, was able to defend her title in a knockout event.
Mhm.
That was amazing in November 2018, because at that time, I might be mistaken, but if we back up a little bit, the system was changing throughout cycles. It was such a hectic
Mhm.
moment. But starting from 2000, it used to be a world championship match, zonal candidates, all those events, like a very long system, every 3 years, like similar to men's chess. But then it was changed to a knockout event, quite a lottery, right? Event, we must say, but still. And it was suggested to hold a world championship every 2 years. And so this world championship started to take place, starting in 2000, in 2001, then 2004. Well, they were not definitely every 2 years for some reasons, but okay, they kept going on until a certain moment where the International Chess Federation decided, no, it's too of a mess, it's too of a lottery. Let's switch it back to the system that it used to be, with a world championship match, and to a system which will be like similar to the open, right, the men's system.
Right.
So it started, but for some reason it started in the middle of one qualification cycle. And actually, because of this constant change, Hu Yifan decided to quit women's chess, not to fight for a title anymore, because by 2012, I think, she's won already everything. She won a knockout championship. She won the series of Grand Prix that led her to a world championship match that she eventually won against Hampi Conero. And then she was like sad, even after winning a world championship match, she needed to defend her title again in the world knockout championship,
Mhm.
and it was very hard to do. And at some point she wasn't able to defend her title in the world championship knockout tournament, so she decided not to compete in women's chess anymore. She tried to like break Judith Polgar's record, right? She played for a few years in the open section. Now she's well, half retired. We always hope to see her come back. But anyway, Ju Wenjun came. She was able to win to qualify for a World Championship match that she played in May 2018 against Tan Zhangui, who won the World Championship knockout championship, the last championship that actually the last knockout that was called a World Championship. It was back in Tehran in 20 was it 18 at the beginning of 2018. And the next knockout tournament was called the World Cup that I won in 2021. But anyway, so a lot of changes, a lot of tournaments, and Ju Wenjun managed to win this match, and then she managed to defend her title by reaching the final of the knockout event in November 2018 and winning this final against Katerina Lagno, losing to her -1 and being able to win back with black pieces in the last game, getting to tiebreak. So a lot of like excitement. Then she played a World Championship match in January 2020, like a long time ago, right? Against Alexandra Goryachkina.
Yeah.
So now it's a little bit easier. So like there is a world champion that's waiting for a candidate to qualify, and this poor candidate, she needs to like first qualify to a candidates tournament via either World Cup, a series of Grand Prix, Grand Swiss, and that's it. And maybe one spot is left by rating for women's chess, but not for open chess anymore. So this candidate, after playing all those kind of qualification events and winning the candidates, finally, after 2 years, usually it's like every 2 years, qualifies for a world championship match against the current women's world champion. In that case, it's Ju Wenjun, but it's been 3 years now because of the pandemic, because of this wars that started in 2022, and because of all this stuff. It's been postponed, reformatted, replayed, and so on and so on. And yes, indeed, Ju Wenjun, she hasn't been playing abroad. She hasn't been playing almost at all, except some online events. And well, I am looking forward so much to her next big event, even though it's going to be in China. It's going to be a world championship match between Shanghai and Chongqing in July. And yes, she's going to play with the winner of the match that we are currently watching. So quite a complicated story, I know. There is a website that FIDE created, which explains this system very well in images. I can share it in the chat. But yeah, it sounds complicated. It's less complicated. And there is another discussion that is interesting for me because it seems, I know that that's tradition. Yes, I understand it and I respect it in a way, but I still believe that a world champion, overall world champion and women's world champion, they get too much privilege. They can just win a world championship match and then wait, not play at all for 2 years. And it seems like a lot. We can get back to this topic and this discussion after we
My heart
have a look at
stopped,
what's happening on
Alexandra,
the
to
board.
see what just happened. That's so unexpected. Jesus Christ, what is happening? Tan Zhongyi really goes that
Well,
after
I mean,
13 minutes of thinking, and this is not the best choice. I was actually checking what can be the best choice there for her, and she had to retreat the knight back. But if she goes to this position, it means that she is ready to have very complicated position, very complicated game, and she is ready for any result here. And that's something very impressive. But I was counting on time. She spent more than 30 minutes for this move. And then she went for that. Is this indicates she's something that she spent so much of the time that she is well calculated in this line, or she was just a bit confused?
well, first of all, she accepted the challenge, right? It's very hard for us to say what was the best option because you really need to analyze for quite a long time to draw this conclusion. Knight f3 that the computer like indicated was absolutely inhuman move, right? To play knight e5 and then after castle get it back. Well, we don't play it this way. I think like a more um, cautious approach, right, that I mentioned would be just to retreat the bishop to c4 and not without letting this bishop get to a6. The move that is now like screaming to be played, and I think Lei is going to play this move because this bishop looks so wonderfully well placed on this diagonal. It doesn't let white king castle. It doesn't let white king go to e2. And we've already discussed briefly the line that actually looks like a forced, almost a forced line after after white captured on c6, which in return can get to this position. And here, I mean, black is a pawn down. White is hoping to, I mean, stop this attack to somehow consolidate. And for example, if it was white to move, she would play bishop f3, threatening to play bishop c3. But again, it's black to move, right? So black has time to continue her pressure, her attack. And actually, it seems very unpleasant. Probably Tan like overestimated her position. She calculated for a long time, and she well, as I said, she decided to accept the challenge. She decided to accept this pawn sacrifice, but oh, she might regret her decision.
Yeah, so interesting situation now. If we reach to this place, what we have on the board, guys, once again, the small board is the current position, and the bigger board is the analysis. King to e1 seems to be the only move there, and then black can play knight to g4 with some nasty ideas like knight e3 sacrifice or knight h2. This pawn is also free out there,
And
and
look at that, for example, here after rook a to b1, hoping to unpin somehow to like sacrifice his pawn back but get this time, for example, after rook a2, probably there are some tricks with bishop d5 or using the fact that back rank is hanging or something like that. But black can ignore this move. They have some ideas such as knight e5
wow.
and then knight d3, and they're winning
Ooh.
simply because they win back the sacrificed rook with the check. For example, after king e2 or king f1, the king is like a force to go on to one of those white squares, and he gets under check, double check, discovered check. The rook is lost, and well, the position looks to be lost as well. So quite a difficult position to face in a practical game if you haven't prepared it, and if your opponent had a chance to watch it, to analyze it at home. Well, Lei is taking her time to think. I don't know whether what exactly it indicates, whether she's on her own or she's just refreshing her memory, taking some time to calculate, because she knows the evaluation, she knows she has enough compensation, but she's just double checking certain lines. And well, it's Tan is gonna suffer here a lot if Lei makes this bishop a6 move. I don't like White's position at all.
I can't agree with you more. This is so nice, active game. Everything indicates that white is just perfectly fine. Perf bishop d pawn, extra pawn on the queen side, which can be pushed. But chess is very concrete game, and black can make so many threats here that can collapse white's pieces. Although if white plays the most accurate moves according to the engine, it can be still equal. As we can see, the engine bar stays in the half of the board, but that's really hard to make. And also bishop to a6 looks like very logical move. But do you think, Alexandra, there can be some more moves that Lei Tingjie can consider to play?
Of course, a move such as rook b2,
Mhm.
right, also looks pretty interesting. But here again, this castle possibility, and she
She
makes a
made
move.
bishop a6. Tan
Uh-huh.
Zhongyi
Replies immediately,
already
right?
made a move. What is that move?
Somewhere
Ah,
far away. What did she do? She reached,
King is
let's
there,
see,
bishop.
bishop a6, and then what happened then? No,
No, she made a
she didn't
move.
play bishop a6
No.
because we were sure that they kind of exchanged moves.
Well, I
It's
do see
weird.
the board, but I don't
Yes,
see the move. That's so
on the
weird.
board. But that's a weird situation. Okay, maybe there is some kind of video lag or delay with the picture. But okay. Look, bishop a6. Yeah, some bugs. Okay, bishop a6, and then Tan replied. I think almost instant. Or it's maybe she adjusted the piece or something.
Yeah,
When
it's her
her
time
opponent like
running.
plays and puts a bishop in the middle of two
Yeah.
squares, she just adjusted it probably.
Yeah, and we had a bit of delay with
Mhm.
the video. Whoa, there was the weird moment. Really, I couldn't find the move. The time was on Lei's side. I thought that it was some magical moment here, but it was just a delay. Well. It would be really surprising if Tan Zhongyi blitz out the move after bishop to a6, because now she has to decide where to bring this king. King is in the center. It is endgame, but this king can cause a lot of problems to white.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it doesn't have a lot of choice, right? I mean, the king, I would doubt king d1 is a serious possibility to consider. King f2 seems a little bit, I mean, it's kind of frightening to make this move. But what other moves are possible? Is it possible, right, to play bishop c3, the move that you proposed earlier? Mm, looks also quite scary to make such moves. And we see the val bar, like dropping immediately down. I think probably due to the fact that black can play something like rook c8. And then I'm not sure what rook to play. Then rook c6, attacking the bishop. And then whenever the bishop goes, rook c2. And again, we see this king almost stuck in the center, right? He's cut off the king side with this bishop. He cannot castle for the moment with the rook being on c2. And even though there are opposite colored bishops, the Valbar, look at the Valbar. It's amazing for me to see such a huge evaluation in favor of black. Because, okay, you still think, well, yes, it's like unpleasant, but I can give up one pawn, I can try to coordinate rooks, but that is the problem. How to coordinate
Yeah.
those rooks?
Alexandra, if this is the competition of guess the evil bar, it would be so difficult to guess that black can have such a big advantage in the end game without a pawn in the optical color bishop position. That could be a really good game to use for that kind of competition. Oh well,
And
wow,
it's a good
this is
demonstration, right, about the importance of a king's position, even in an endgame. I mean, king's safety is the key role in chess. We always need to pay attention to the position of our king. And even though in most of the endgames we say how important the king is, how it should be closer to the center, but that's definitely an exception, and that's why chess is so difficult. I mean, in 90% of cases it can be like it can be true about the king being in the center and needing to be in the center, and in this case, in like 10% of the cases, it should be avoided by all costs. And where to find those exceptions, how to understand that that's actually an exception, it's quite difficult. And we saw Tan thinking for so long before accepting this pawn sacrifice, going for it, and she might be regretting her decision in the very next minutes.
I agree with that. The chat is asking if white can hear castle because b file is
Yeah.
controlled by the rook. We were talking about that. Probably you just joined us. White can castle, guys, but the bishop on c6 will hang next move as rook can get on c file right away, and white will have a huge problem in this game. Alexandra, what the body language tells you right now? Tanjongi is very focused now. She has the hands on the table, and Lei Tingjie is laid back, a little bit relaxed. Can that
Yeah,
indicate that she's very comfortable in this
she
position?
she is. I mean, getting such a position with the black pieces out of the opening, oh, it's a dream come true. I
Hmm.
mean, she's confident. I'm sure she knows the evaluation of the position. Well, basic ideas we can guess, right? They're pretty easy. You see the king in the center, and you just want to get your rooks to the second rank and just checkmate it. And well, I mean, again, a very comfortable position to play with black. And we see that, yeah, bishop f3. Okay, is this kind of a cautious move that I mentioned actually before, right? Protecting the e2 square, probably getting ready to play bishop e2 at
Hmm.
some point. Yeah, it's very reasonable. And of course, it's much more logical in a way than king to f2, because king f2 was getting the king to the second rank where it could be pinned. So maybe it's not that bad as I like uh, predicted for white yet, because after rook b2 right now, the king is not on f2, so the bishop is not pinned. So it can get to c3. And here I'm not sure about bishop takes f6.
Hmm.
Right, we should always consider it, because well, this knight can start jumping around and give some trouble to white. Maybe, I mean, white can somehow simply exchange everything, give away this one pawn, and get a draw. At least it looks very close to a draw. I mean, even if black will do something like rook b8, rook b2, I don't think a checkmate is possible. Like, okay, black's idea is to play bishop e2 at some point, right? I think, well, rook h3, rook e2 should not be winning.
Mm.
It should be, it gives only a draw. But I mean, some kind of a draw like this might be possible, right? And then
That
there's a
looks fancy.
perpetual. So something like
Yeah.
this. So it does look very close to a draw if white plays correctly, if she kind of consolidates her position. Yes, black has initiative, good, very good initiative for the pawn, but maybe, yeah, it's not that bad as I was like telling you it was.
Yeah, I agree with that. That White
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to play the most accurate moves.
I
Um,
moved it.
maybe
I
you
moved the
can
board a little bit, yeah.
maybe we can take a look meanwhile to the playing venue and check out these two players, as they are both very focused. They are playing in the city. Wish me good luck to pronounce it, Alexander. I was actually training how to pronounce that. Chongqing, China. This is very big city, 32 million people, and they have huge chess traditions. As you can see, these two ladies are from the same city. At the interview on the press conference, Lei Tingjie said that she hopes that the world championship title will stay in her city, which means that she is supporting her teammate in a way if the things goes wrong to for her, and if she is not qualifying to the world championship match. So this should be a huge celebration for the city, for the club they are playing for, to have so strong chess players that you are now hosting the candidates final in your city. That's, I think, dreamy situation for all the clubs.
Yes, of course. When there are like two players from one local club reach suddenly like
Mhm.
almost a world championship match. Well, not a world championship match, but definitely a world level match. It's such a celebration for the club and for the city and for the people who are working there and who are making all this happen, because it doesn't happen like in an empty place, right? There's always some work behind it that we don't see. And as well, I often say that when we like analyze a chess game, when we talk about a chess tournament, it's always like just the peak of an iceberg. There's always so much work behind it, not only from the player's perspective, but also from the organizational kind of perspective, from all those enthusiasts and sponsors who make such events happen. We shall not forget that it's not an easy task to organize a chess event of any level. And it's wonderful that those events keep getting organized, and chess fans nowadays have more and more opportunities to watch them and to see them whenever they're taking place. Right now, these girls, they're playing in China, in Chongqing in China, and we are watching it from so many different cities and countries. And
Hmm.
I compare chess with a language, that whenever you go and you speak chess, you can find um, other people who speak the same language and who can enjoy it as much as you do.
Yeah, I have to correct myself, as our producer gives us a big help all the time, that I went too dramatic with the numbers about the population of Chongqing. This is the fourth biggest Chinese city by urban population, and is 16.34 million people, and it is um, after Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. So, very, very important city. And as Alexandra already mentioned, another match between Ju Wenjun and the winner of this tournament will happen between Shanghai and Chongqing. So that's going to be another big event for the city.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. But first, yes, first the winner needs to be determined here in this match, and the players are working very hard, both of them, towards this goal, towards this World Championship match. Because we shall keep in mind that yes, by winning this candidates, the winner gets a very good prize, but she also secures quite a lot of money, since she's also qualified for a world championship match where the prize fund is even more, and it's split only between two players.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, Alexandra, we had no time to continue this topic that you were just pointing out. So good details there about this whole circle of the World Championship match and these changes of the system. I agree with that. And how I see this picture is there is Ju Wenjun who's not playing that much, and there's one candidate who's playing all these tournaments, has to go through really difficult ones, beat all these strong opponents. But on the positive side, you can collect some of the nice money of these tournaments. In the end of the day, in the end of all this circle, when you're in the World Championship match, you have really nice money on your bank account. So that's one of the positive sides of that. That I was thinking. But then we saw this 96, and we thought that the drama was approaching us on the chessboard, and we had to quit that topic. Um, do you think, Alexandra, this time situation right now for Tanzhongyi, 47 minutes that she has invested for one move, 30 minutes, would cause her any difficulties at this point?
No, I don't think so. Again, yes, the position looks a little bit unpleasant for White, but as long as she finds this a few next correct moves, probably she's already calculated it. That's why at the beginning she went for it, right? We evaluate just briefly, we're glancing at the position, while she had time to really dive into all those lines, think for over 30 minutes on her move, and she made this decision based on her calculations, and she trusts herself. That's also a very important sign of confidence, right? That we discussed. Why do you need to be confident? Because you need trust your decisions, you need to trust your calculations. If you don't trust yourself, well, there is no point playing chess. So she calculated a lot, and she decided to go ahead accept the sacrifice, and she believes that, well, I'm sure she understands there is quite a significant compensation for black at this point for a pawn, but okay, a pawn is a pawn, a pair of bishops is a pair of bishops, and she hopes to be able to coordinate her rooks somehow, maybe to give back the sacrificed pawn, and eventually, well, stop Lei from getting closer to her dream.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
true. She's trying very hard. Latest played rook to e8, hitting the pawn on e4. So in some of the lines, maybe she's considering to play rook to b2 to get this rook on the second rank, and bishop would not move so freely on c3 as the pawn on e3 would hang. And that also just stops white's dark square bishop to get more active right now. On the other hand, is it now time? Can white just play king to f2, try to connect rooks, and there can be a little detail like difference from the position we were considering. The bishop is already on f3, and maybe this bishop controls g4 square, and white is on time to make all these accurate moves.
Yeah, exactly. If we like try to get the same line that we discussed, right, with rook d8, king e1, then there is no king g4. And remember when we were discussing this position, I was telling that if white could play bishop of 3,
Mhm.
then everything would be very good for them. And now the bishop is already on f3. So black needs to find something else, some other continuations to put the pressure on. Well, it's always possible to play bishop c4, I believe, here,
Mhm.
if black just wants to win back this pawn. Because I don't think the pawn can move actually up because of bishop b3. And
Right.
if black takes on a2, we get an endgame, well, somewhat similar to yesterday's position. Well, of course, not exactly the same, but okay, a pair of bishops, but pawns on one side of the board. Well, very draw.
Isolated pawn for the other side. Yeah, very very similar,
Mhm.
very similar one. Oh wow, this was nicely thought out from Tan Zhongyi to put pieces together, and that's why she was taking so long. I think she came up with this on the board, and this is not actually her preparation. And even considering that she was not um, sh- she might not be expecting c5 from Lei Tingjie, as she has not played that kind of positions earlier.
Yes, but again, as what I was saying, that when you're preparing for a match on such a high level, you really
Mhm.
need to get ready for every single opening, in fact, right? You need to have a plan on what to do. If your opponent surprises you with an opening he or she has never played before, it's possible nowadays, and it's very tempting actually to prepare something completely new from your side that you haven't played. Before a match, just to surprise your opponent, because it's a match is so short and you don't have this luxury of preparing and getting ready like very thoroughly if you hadn't done so already before this match. And
Yeah.
well, we see that Tan is trying to surprise her opponent, but Lei is also pretty well prepared, and
Mhm.
she might not have played chess a lot, but she's definitely done a lot of work throughout those years that when China was closed, basically.
Yeah, that's for sure. We can say now on the board and in all her games. Alexandra, I have this question to you as a professional chess player. For us, for actually spectators, for the commentators, it's always so good to know some of the details, what the process was during the decision making, and how they were choosing the openings. Who are the coaches? Who are the seconds and everything? We need to know all these details. We're wishing to know these details. But this question to you now as a chess professional, how hard is it for you to go after the game, after intense game at the interview and answer all those questions and show all your cards or some of your cards?
Well, you don't need to show your cards, right? Well, as long as you're not forced to go to a press conference after you lose your game, it was so harsh. I remember there used to be this rule like this in the first series of Grand Prix, like back about 10 years ago,
Mhm.
that according to the contract we had, the players were supposed to go to an after game press conference despite the result. And it was so hard for me because, well, I've had very bad tournaments. And when
Mhm.
you lose game after game, and then you are kind of still obliged to go to this press conference, and I'm the player who, well, suffers a lot. I need some time to calm down after a game, especially if the result is unfortunate.
Mhm.
I really suffer through these results a lot, and it's been hard for me.
Mhm.
And well, what's the point to talk if you don't feel like talking, right? What did you do? What happened in your game? Well, I lost, and that's the most important factor. And we can argue that yes, for spectators it's important, but you can get used to it, etc., etc. But I will gladly, do my best if I won the game. I will gladly do my best after the tournament is over to go every single game to do a recap. But just for me, it's also not only emotions that sometimes I cannot handle them if I lose, but also I spend so much energy for every game
Mhm.
that I feel that I run very low on energy. And every interview requires some additional amount of energy. And that worries me a lot. So that's why I'm the one during a tournament who's trying to avoid anyone. I'm trying to avoid any unneeded talk, any unneeded interview, any unneeded attention. I mean, unneeded in my point of view, right? So
Mhm.
when you would try to approach me during a chess tournament, you would see me just trying to run away, to skip away from all those talks, meetings, events, because I just know that my energy level is not how it used to be. I'm not like a 20-year-old player, and that's why um, I'm trying to save it for my future games.
Yeah, Alexander, about that, there was one of the funniest moments that I have observed, and also the human points was very important. That I will not name any of these people or the chess renowned, but there was this must give an interview situation, and this player said that yeah, I cannot do it. It's just I feel so bad. And the interviewer said, like, do you know there is another exit as well? Like you just can walk that side and no one can see you. And that was like, whoa, that's so nice human point here that you can feel how much player can suffer after whatever type of game. It's like for each players, each game really matters. Maybe some of the spectators can find it boring game or interesting game, but for just players, that's what matters at that point. Meanwhile, we're getting the moves, but we can give ourselves some more time because they have played the moves we were considering to be really good. King to f2 has been played by Tan Zhongyi, and Lei responded with rook to b2 to pin this bishop on d2 square and rook to d1. Alexandra, I'm like thinking if Lay's not going to push now and make a serious decisions like you demonstrated bishop to c4 to go after this pawn, or I don't know, maybe even there's move such as at h5 or something. Tanjongi might get something out of this position because she has already solved some of her issues. She connected the rooks, king is now safer, and there's an extra pawn on the board for her.
Yes, of course. The most difficult part is behind white, right? She can breathe. And her rooks are coordinated. She's one move away from unpinning this bishop. And if she manages to unpin it and then get out with her second bishop to d4, for example, her position will be winning. She has an extra pawn, so definitely black cannot ignore white's idea. They cannot make, I think, a move like a waiting move. She should do something, and she should create some counter threats. That's why I proposed this bishop c4 move earlier on, because, well, she plays knight e4. It's another option of like forcing everything, and kind of almost forcing her opponent to grab on e4 to take here. After that, we have an opposite colored bishop on the board, and it gives always like a lot of drawish ideas. Of course, black needs to be careful about this back rank, because if we imagine white's rook getting onto d8, it might be the game over. But fortunately for black, this bishop is still pinned, and I think if white plays something as king f3, there are different possibilities to protect this rook, such as bishop e7 or f5,
Right.
opening up the road for this king, like securing your king as well. And I think this bishop still has troubles to go away because of this bishop e2 and rook g4. And we know that in opposite colored bishops positions, those attacking ideas are often very strong, because there is no counter part against your bishop, right? This bishop only runs on black squares, while your bishop is using white squares, and that's why sometimes it's so hard to stop those maneuvers from appearing on the board. So knight e4 definitely a very like concrete moves, making sure to get rid of this pair of bishops, because, well, I mentioned right, this bishop c4 possibility and a possibility of win back this pawn. But in that case, this pair of bishop will stay on the board, and we know that it might lead to some unnecessary, some troubles for black, some more time, some more moves to make. And Lei's decision is like a more straightforward, and is easier in a practical term.
Yeah, after 94, I was actually thinking that bishop e4, rook e4, and bishop c3 might be crucial for black to attack the rook and also threat the back rank check mate. But then you can play this move, and I was just seeing ghosts here. So I think now it's a good time to just take off from here and let the players clean up a little bit of the board to make us our life more easier. But before that, guys, we do have here very good information for you. Another very exciting event for this year's Olympic Esports Series. Chess.com will be hosting an online open tournament to qualify 8 players into the live finals in Singapore. First, we host an online Blitz qualifier open to non-title players. The top 42 qualifiers will then join title players in the later stage. If you have always dreamed of playing on the world stage with top players from around the world, now is your chance. Qualifiers begins April 1st at 5 a.m. Pacific time and 2 p.m. Central European time. To find out how to compete in the Olympic Esports Series 2023, use command OES in the chat and take a look. What is this tournament about? Meanwhile, we have one more move from Zhongyi, and she plays rook to b1. Lei Tingjie now on time. She will make her decision, but we're gonna take a very short break, guys. We'll be back in a few minutes, and we will take over from that.
Yeah, there are a few. I mean, one for sure is interviewing the Holocaust survivor in 1956, French women's chess champion Isabelle Schauffele. Started out as a podcast for Ladies' Night in the Grid, and it turned out that I got a chance to travel to Paris and actually meet Isabelle herself. That's a little piece that's going to be coming out on chess.com soon. That was just magical. I mean, I'm Jewish, and seeing the rise of anti-Semitism is really disturbing. And to be able to talk to somebody who was almost slaughtered in one of the worst atrocities of all time, but is still living 80 years later, and really not just living, but thriving, like providing so much inspiration to everyone around the world. I mean, it's a magical moment. Like, this is like one of the reasons why we play chess and why we create art, for moments like that. So I feel really lucky to have met Isabel and thankful for that. Also, another moment that really stands out for me was when Judith Polgar visited my US Chess Girls Club. We had hundreds of girls there from all over the world. In fact, we had girls from Kenya. We had girls from, obviously the United States, from Colombia. And we also had adult women there as well. So it was a huge turnout. And Judith was just so charming and brilliant in her answers. In particular, I noticed that a lot of girls asked her similar questions on a variation of like, what do you do if your confidence is shattered? What do you do if you lose a few games in a row? If you're scared, if you don't know what to do? And it's funny because Judith's reply was so striking to me, because she was just like, oh man, these questions are tough for me because I've always been so confident. And she did manage to reply, but it was interesting to me to see that was a bit of a struggle for her, because she has always had that confidence that she was great. She hasn't suffered from imposter syndrome. And I think that's a big secret to her success, and just a reminder of how important confidence is to becoming the best chess player that you can be.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Women's Candidates Final 2023. Two grandmasters now fighting for the final seat at the World Women's Chess Championship match. Ju Wenjun, the current Women's World Champion, is waiting for her opponent, and we're gonna find it out soon in these days. So here we have round 3, Tan Zhongyi with white pieces with extra pawn right now on the board. But Alexandra, Lei Tingjie has traded the one pair of rook. And here we have the current situation. Let's try to evaluate these changes.
Yes, actually, a lot of things had happened since we left the board for a break. So we saw the move knight e4. We discussed that it's a straightforward decision, but in fact, White had this rook a to b1 move and made it using the fact that the rook cannot take on e2 due to this back rank mate, rook b8. So rook's exchange was almost forced, but Black forced it in a very elegant way. Lei didn't capture on b1 straight away. Instead, she used the fact that bishop is pinned. And of course, Black's goal is to exchange all the rooks. But okay, now we can safely say that White is out of any danger. She has an extra pawn. She's gonna enjoy this extra pawn for a while. The other thing that despite having an extra side pawn, it's very hard to improve White's position to get through this a6 square. That's gonna be under control of this rook and of this bishop. But well, I'm still surprised. For me, it's quite difficult to agree with the computer evaluation that it's like 0, 0, 0. It always feels, well, when there is an extra pawn, you always feel like, okay, it might be a draw, but there should be some chances, right? White should be able to press. And I think after all this drama in the opening, after Lei better prepared, it's such a relief for Tan to get such a safe position with an extra pawn, playing only for 2 results. So that's why, I mean, I always feel uncomfortable in such situations when playing for a weaker side in this for Black because it might be a draw if you do everything well and correctly, but there is never gonna be a chance to win, right? To complicate, and it's a little bit sad in my point of view. But unfortunately, in the modern chess, you need to know how to hold such positions. Drawish position, if you wish, like equal positions, especially when playing with Black.
Yeah, I agree with you. Here, this position is totally risk-free for Tan Zhongyi. And the side that I would worry here would be Black, because there is some lines with the back rank issues here. At some point, Lei Tingjie either needs to bring the king into the action or play moves like f5, h5. Any pawn move on the king side will give the Black's king some possibilities to run away from the back rank. I was actually thinking maybe the reason why engine gives like 0, 0 here might be the idea to get this bishop, like something like bishop c4, bishop b3, to go after the rook and the bishop, and using this pin, still the pin exists on the board, and maybe Black is just on time to go after that and manage to capture the a4 pawn.
Well, I just think it should be quite difficult to unpin for White, because okay, right now the bishop is pinned, the rook is kind of obliged, forced to protect it, right? And the plan to improve the position might be connected with e4, king e3. And I was thinking that it's a Black to move. In fact, she can play something like f5, stopping this idea, not letting White possibility to play e4, opening up the road for the king, secure it. I mean, eliminate all those back rank ideas, and get ready to play a rook a2. And okay, what how can white improve the position? That is the question, right? Because, well, in order to improve it, she somehow needs to activate her pieces. In order to activate her pieces, she needs somehow to protect her bishop. And it seems that the only way to protect her bishop is to play king e1. How else?
Yeah, that seems the only move, to be honest.
Well, I mean, there is another way, of course. You can move your king away somehow, right? And then your bishop can move.
Hmm.
But
This, on the other hand, might point out another problem here for white, potential problem to.
oops.
Oh, now bishop e2, I think,
Yeah.
wins the piece. But black can somehow play bishop e7 to pin the bishop once again on g2 pawn in that case.
Yeah, exactly. But we see that, well, right here, it seems that since bishop e2 is a threat, right, as we figured it out, then it seems that bishop c3 needs to be played. But then again, okay, the idea is that if I take, and there is rook d8, rook d7, and white can win this pawn again.
Shall we go to bishop e2 right away without rook a2? Because after king g3, e2 square is now open
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
bishop.
Actually, it should be a draw. Yeah, just a draw, right? Yeah, it's just a draw. So exactly. So king
f5 is on the board. F5 is on the board.
Yeah, and it
We
seems
get
very
that
precise
move.
because when you were saying discussing, I mean, this position. Yeah, I asked myself a question: how does white want to improve? And I immediately saw this plan of e4 king e3. I mean, it might be still not winning, right? It shouldn't be winning, but if you can like stop this plan, but why not do that? And especially this, it's a multitask move, and you always like those kind of moves when you not only stop white's plan, your opponent's plan, but you also improve your position. And here in this case, it's very important to make sure that your king is not checkmated somewhere, that you don't blunder this back rank combination that are always nasty and can be very, very unpleasant. Well, after five, yes, we already analyzed the move king g3, right, where a draw is almost can be reached by force after bishop e2. So king e1, but okay, you don't believe in such moves, right? Usually, such 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 position of white pieces doesn't suggest that it should be winning. Again, this bishop is it's very hard to make a move with it because there is not only rook g2, but there is always rook e2 check first, right? And then back somewhere with discover check. So I think it can be pretty safe for black just to play king f7, king x6, improve the position, and well.
Oh, let's find the carrier for this king as well. King d5, king e4, and activate it.
Exactly. Why not? Why not? We know the drill. Imagine if white plays g3, then all those white squares. Oh,
that's going to be really, really difficult to hold the position.
Exactly. So probably for white, it would be wise, to somehow find a line where black can make this forced draw, agree on a draw, and okay, agree with this score 1.5 to 1.5. Take it easy. Tomorrow is a free day. It's very important. Actually, 3 games in a row on such a high level with such an amount of preparation as these players face. It's quite a lot, and I think it's important to get to this free day with an even score is not like anything dramatic. There were too many blunders, too many ups and downs for this level. It's quite surprising. So definitely quite a lot of tension and quite a lot of things to live through for those players. So they definitely need to this free day to recover.
I can't agree more. First 2 games were a lot of ups and downs, very long games because it kind of took their energy. And today we can see that they went to they choose the line, which is very peaceful, not too much of the risk, still very tricky.
Well,
If
yes.
they were checking each other if they knew the line, but seems like they both perfectly well knew this very interesting line. And here we have, at this point where I was just checking, in the end game, Lei Tingjie had 1 hour on the clock. So
yeah,
at
no
this
time
point,
trouble,
that's
no
too
time
much.
trouble today. Definitely, it's heading it's heading towards a draw again. There was quite a lot of action today. A very interesting, quite a rare line with a new, well, a lot of actually, yeah, things in the opening, and definitely something to consider for their future games, because now it's getting more interesting, right? And because already two games, Tan already played twice with the white pieces. Is she gonna repeat? Is she gonna try to find something against this opening in case she repeats? She opens her next white game with d4 again. Is Lei gonna like stay true to herself and play the same opening again? So it's getting more interesting as the match progresses. So let's
Yeah,
see.
that's right. That's true. And we might see some of more preparations later on in this match, as now they have seen some of the cards of each other. King Yuan, meanwhile, has been played. This king wants to guard the bishop on d2. Maybe bishop cannot move away, but at least rook can move away and start to annoy the blacks pieces here at this point. Not much of the changes. Alexander, shall we take some time now and bring the analysis board and take a look at the opening, which you would consider the most challenging situation for both players when they had to make the most difficult decision, if there was any moment
Well,
such as.
I mean, it's quite hard to say. It depends on what they knew and what they prepared. And if we look at the time management of Lei, for example, she was playing so fast, she started to think only around this moment, and still she made these moves connected with pawn sacrifice pretty fast. So we can argue whether rook f2e8 was like the most precise way, but still, I mean, um, how fast she played and all those decisions that she made seemed to indicate that she was just very well prepared. And this position, despite white having an extra pawn, seems to be quite drawish, right? Black is gonna put her rook onto a2, like stop this pawn, take on control this pawn, and improve the position of the king. Yes, white will meanwhile try to bring the rook somewhere into play, but it's unlikely there are gonna be any significant changes, and like the most likely result is a draw. If we talk about Tan, she didn't seem to be surprised with her opponent's choice, so it was some kind of a Tarash defense um, line with c5 without bringing the knight on f6, immediately using this tactical idea that we saw in the game. If white takes on c5, trying to win the pawn on d5, black has this intermediate move d4 with a counterattack, and when the knight goes away, protecting the pawn on c5, black has this small tactical exchange combination, giving up a bishop for a pawn, but winning back this knight with a double attack. And then again, b4 was played pretty fast, also, although there were other games with other moves here, such as rook c1, right, attacking the queen differently. But Tan played b4 very fast, and even after queen b6, a move that was not played very often, she continued playing pretty fast, indicating that she knows some ideas, she had prepared it. But it seems to me that Lei was just a little bit better prepared. In other words, she didn't face any serious opening problems. She played knight f6. I mentioned there was another game where black played bishop d7, protecting himself from the idea, from this knight e5 idea that happened in the game. But apparently, as Lei proved, that yes, this idea this move, knight f6, is connected with with a pawn sacrifice, but the initiative that black gets after it is enough for at least for a draw if white plays accurately, and she did play it and did she play accurately. She ended up with this extra pawn in the endgames that we see currently on the board, but again, it's very unlikely to get use of this pawn with white. But the game continues.
Yeah,
It's
the
not a
game
draw yet.
continues as we do have the rule in this game. Players cannot agree on a draw before 40 moves, and we are just pretty far from 40 moves. It's move 27 only, unless they repeat the position. But this is not the case when you can easily repeat the position, because with white pieces, if you start to repeat the position, maybe your opponent will activate the king and would have more ambitious, or it can work the other ways too. So I believe that they will make at least the rest of the 13 moves here before we see a clear picture.
Yeah, I mean, there can be some repetitions. I'm trying to show how, okay, black has to be careful not to blunder a bishop right after rook c7, rook c6. But something like this, for example, I'm just trying to see, I'm not sure if it's working, but something like this. So check, and then rook a2, and then rook a1. It seems to be very probable to me, this kind of continuation.
Right. Let's see if we're gonna see that bishop d3 has been played from
Bishop
Lei
d3.
Tingjie. She does she want
Is she willing, to exchange those rooks? Maybe.
That can, I think, complicate a little bit her situation, because
Yeah,
white
let's
will
see.
feel very comfortable here with the side pawn.
Unless she knows it's like a dead draw, right? Me, without analyzing this endgame, I'm always afraid, because yes, it's a like opposite colored bishop endgame, but we saw it yesterday. When there are passed pawns, you always got to be careful, like something king e2, and well, again, maybe she just knows that it's some kind of a draw. Maybe, I don't know, the king gets and stops this pawn, while black just puts the pawns onto white squares and secure it safely. I mean, she's sure in it. Maybe. Again, it didn't seem to be that necessary, right? Especially now, you see that white played a5, so Tan is trying to push her pawn as close to the edge of the board as possible. Again, as I indicated, well, who knows? I mean, let's see. Maybe this endgame is just a draw. G3 first. Well, let's go with the king.
Yeah, the problem here for white is that you can't really get activate king on the queen side, because black's king gonna get the opposition, and you're not that strong on the king side to create.
Well, your idea is to somehow provoke this g6, right? And then little by little, somehow, I don't know how is it possible, yes, to get with your king to the squares and try to attack the pawns. But
how about g5, g4? Not caring about h pawn at all, because after g5, g4, it's just blocked.
Yeah. Might
king
be.
d5, centralize the king.
I think that's what... Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to show.
Oh, king d5, I was blundering.
Yeah, king d5, you should be careful. But okay, what I wanted to show, what kind of ideas, right, there might be. So let's pretend you play. But yeah, I'm afraid that if you play g4, there are not more any ideas connected with this breakthrough. So I doubt I can win. I mean, it seems to be a dead draw. So you just go with your king around, and as you mentioned. Okay, but that's what I wanted to show. So I move around and I play h3. Wait, okay.
We can stop that bishop g2 in that case, very least.
Yeah, but I just wanted to show this idea, right? I'm not sure it's gonna bring you anything, because when you get back. I mean, I want to play g4. I want to undermine this bishop, and I want to kind of force it. But the problem is that now I
The wrong
realized
color,
that
yeah.
this, yeah, it's the wrong color. Yesterday it was the right color, right? We remember that the pawn was on the h file, and there was a dark square bishop. So that means if white would win the bishop, it's a winning position. But now it's a completely different story, because here, even if white wins this bishop, I mean, that's it. That's a draw. With the
Yeah.
pawn on a7, it's a very famous fortress, and there is no way to break through. So that's why I think Lei is so sure that, yeah. Again, since
It's
we
gonna be
analyzed
true.
it a little bit,
Yeah, I have a feeling in this.
who knows, maybe h4, like stopping this plan, might. But okay, then probably bishop e4. And I mean, if I play h5 and g6, as we saw in yesterday's game, right? There might be more
Might have
problems.
some problems,
Although,
yeah.
okay, king goes to b7, stops the pawn, and this bishop gets to g4. Holding
Alexandra, I
those two.
have a feeling in this kind of positions, it like white might not win, but black can lose. And g5, g5 has been played here. Lei is so good at end games. She maybe is planning to play rook to b1 now. White can't really escape that move.
Yeah, I think that's the
And
plan.
yeah,
That's
she
discussed.
was just playing it carefully, just to make sure that pawn is not stuck on g7, but rather to be on g4.
Yeah, she seems to be pretty confident and pretty sure on what
Oh,
she's
look at
doing.
how she's staring now. Yesterday
Yeah.
we didn't see her looking at the opponent, but it was Zhongyi. And now this picture tells us a different way. She managed to equalize really easily with black pieces. Maybe that's all she needed in the game 3.
Yeah, well, she's relaxed, definitely, right? Like sitting, looking at her opponent, and she was not nothing near that, right, in the first two games, because now she seems to be very sure about the evaluation, about the results that's coming up, and there is no mystery in the position for her.
True. That's true. So far, what can we, if we can draw some conclusions, first two games, Lei was pressing pretty much. This game, third game, Tanjongi knew the theory as well, but it was still hard who was solving the issues because of these not connected pieces. Is this enough evidence for us to speculate that Lei is the one who is pressing?
Well, of course, yes. For so far, the match is unfolding very well for Lei, despite the fact that she lost the first game. But as we remember, she might have easily won it, right? She had a winning position, and she just, well, stumbled upon a little bit in the time trouble. But she won back. Now she's very convincingly. Eliminated one more white color. She has two games. There are three games left, and she has two games left with white and one game left with black. And it's quite a serious advantage. Um, she's very, I think, confident in her work that she's done before the match. And we saw that Tan's opening choice yesterday, was not that convincing compared to Lei's choice today. And again,
Yeah,
since I
true.
consider Lei to be a great favorite for a World Championship match, I expect to see Ju Wenjun Lei Tingjie World Championship match. It doesn't surprise me, but I might be wrong. I'm not very good in predictions, and somehow I think I make those predictions based on my individual results versus those two players. I have a pretty good score with Tan Zhongyi. I played many games with her, while with Lei I've played fewer games, and I am suffering. I haven't won one single classical game, although we just, I think, played two classical over the board games with her, but I lost both of them. So
Mm.
So quite an unpleasant opponent so far for me. Uh,
Yeah, that's actually
we'll
very
see.
interesting, Alexandra. If we talk for longer perspective for Ju Wenjun, who is for sure focused on this match, she has one option to have the same opponent as she had previously at the World Championship. I guess they have played more games because they are at a very similar age, and very likely they have not played as much. And Ju Wenjun knows Lei Tingjie less than Zhongyi. So it's interesting what would be her choice, to have a new challenger or to have the well-known old challenger that you have played tons of games.
Well,
Because actually Tan Zhongyi mentioned in the interview that she has played hundreds of games against Ju and Jun.
all right. Well, first of all, it's not up to Ju Wenjun to make this choice, right?
Mhm.
So she just needs to prepare for whoever wins this match. And I might be mistaken, but I remember that during a World Championship match, like the last Women's World Championship match back in 2020, Ju Wenjun versus Garechkina, I think it was Tan who was visiting or who was supporting Ju Wenjun. Maybe they are friends.
Wow.
It's kind of I was surprised to see her during this match in Ju Wenjun's team, because I thought that they're playing like against each other in the Chinese league, right? They're not from the same team. It's not like Tan and Lei who are playing for the same team, but actually Ju Wenjun is playing against Tan usually. And yeah, I was surprised to see Tang in Vladivostok. I think she came and she was supporting her compatriot. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it was not Tan. A lot
Oh.
of times passed, but I remember that it made me.
That's huge thing, Alexandra, if it's so, to travel all the way to the other country for the World Championship
Well,
match. That's really
Vladivostok is quite
huge.
close to China, so it was not such
I
a huge
really.
travel. Yeah,
Well,
yes.
that anyway, the other country, not the tournament was split into countries, in your own country and the other country for sure is another country, and it's farther. So that's quite a statement to
So
make.
yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, it might indicate that Tan Gu and Ju Wenjun are good friends, so
Mm.
good that Ju Wenjun even invited Tan into her team, which you don't see in women's chess. I mean, usually women don't invite other women to help them throughout matches. At least we don't have and know many of such examples. So it was something quite significant. That's why I paid attention to it. Again, maybe it was not Tan. Maybe I'm confusing her with somebody else. But even in that perspective, um,
Oh, it's
it
actually a
would be
very, very
tricky.
interesting
Yeah, it would be.
topic.
Yeah. Mm.
Alexander, it's a very interesting topic as the game is still keeping going. Maybe our chat also finds it interesting because we both know a little bit more details about the professional chess players and a bit of culture. What I have experienced and what I have seen is that Team India, women players and men players, they're a team. They're supporting each other, they're happy of each other's successes, and this is a phenomenon for me to see how happy they are for each other, how much they are supporting each other, even though they are like opponents of each other, because in the end of the day there is only four players plus one player at the team competitions. In the end of the day, you want to be the first player by the rating list. You want to be the one who gets the sponsors and so on. But this spirit is clear for me with all the Indian players. Maybe Team China also has the same spirit. I have seen a lot of times during the tournaments that they are always chatting. They are always very friendly to each other. Um, and they are quite close to each other, not very much to the foreigner players, uh, but to each other, and they are very often just laughing together, and I don't know what they're talking, but they are surely talking a lot. um, and I can barely see this to the other countries, unfortunately. And also myself coming from Georgia, which is very strong chess country, and how we have such a strong chess culture, it's still a lot of competition. You can feel it in the air that there's still a lot of competition, and I don't experience the same thing in Georgia. What I can see, for instance, in India and probably in China, and this can be actually a very good example what you said, that if Tan Zhongyi really traveled to the match to support Ju Wenjun, that's pretty cool and says a lot about the culture in chess in China.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation. Of course, it's always interesting to see how players interact between each
Mhm.
other, especially in teams events. We know that chess is an individual sport most of the time, but there are some team events where rivals, yesterday, they need to somehow cooperate together, to play together, to root for each other, right? To help in a way, somehow,
Mhm.
to sacrifice their own results if the team needs it. So yeah, quite a hard switch for most of the chess players, because again, we're so used to play individually. We're so used to focus on our own feelings and our own preparations that it might be very hard to share um, like some of the insights with your teammates. But again,
True.
I've always been a very big fan of team events. I've always enjoyed playing for my teams. There were many, of course, the national team, and also I've played in some leagues, right? Until like, um, well, I care a lot about team results, and it
Team
was a big
spirit
loss
is
for
very
me, like a big
important.
personal loss for me that I well I wasn't playing in the Chess Olympiad in 2022.
Mhm.
And well, yeah, now it's a different situation. But anyway, if we look at the Chinese players, yes, we don't know a lot about them because of the language, right? Because of them kind of distancing sometimes from other players, mostly of the language. I feel that the language is the main issue.
Mhm.
uh, uh, there are not so many players from China fluent in English. Actually, Lei is a very good
Lei is very
exception.
good
Yeah,
at
she's
yeah.
very good in English. She is quite open. She gives interviews often, and I just hope there are gonna be more opportunities like to talk to these players, for journalists to like. Because there are not so many interviews also of these players, so that's why we don't really know where they're coming from, how they started playing chess, and well, what are their goals, how they live, um, how chess, I mean, the chess world functions in China, right? I mentioned that I've heard that there are some grandmasters, like male grandmasters, who kind of attach to female grandmasters, and they work together and collaborate together, and that produces great results. Whether it's true or not, I'm even not 100% sure, but it would be interesting to find out, to see how. Um,
Yeah.
what
It's
kind
an
of
interesting
support they
idea.
get, right? And well, another country is always a mystery, or some part of mystery, especially a country so close in a way as China. And China has been shut out of the uh, outside world for almost 3 years, more than 3 years now. So, and it's quite a
Oh,
long
yeah,
time.
that was quite a difficult time for Chinese chess players. Talking about the language barrier, is there with these players, unfortunately. But as you said, Lei Tingjie is very open. She is quite good at English, and I had a fun girl moment with her recently in Monaco, and I was like, wow, this is so cute. So there was like after the end of the tournament, we had this small dinner. And when I was a bit late because I was working, and when I went there, she called me and she said that I saved the seat next to me for you, and I was like, You for me? Oh my god. And I started to have some rush in my head. And that was like really, really cool moment because for me it is incredible to somehow get in touch with the people who you observe so much. And for me, two professions, chess players and the pilots, are always the mysterious people. I think they're the biggest heroes of everyone. Well, chess, because I'm here for the moment. I think I was able to talk, and then pilots because I'm very much afraid of the flights, and we are having a lot of travels. Meanwhile, this game is going to the way that they have traded the rooks, and Lei Tingjie is so confident of this end game that she is not very much hesitating to go to the end game. You guys, we're gonna see rest of the actions right back when we are coming from our another break. Lei Tingjie Zhongyi is still playing this end game. They have few pieces on the board, but they have to reach 40 moves to agree on a draw or repeat the position. We're gonna see all these actions right when we're back.
What's the best way to follow any chess event, from the World Chess Championship to the candidates, the Speed Chess Championship, Title Tuesday, and so much more? Chess.com/events has all of the top chess tournaments played both over the board and online. Analyze and review games from the world's greatest players with live commentary, cloud analysis, opening explorer, and table bases. Find all the key event information, including schedules, prizes, results, news reports, player bios, tie breaks, and more. Even compete by voting for your predicted results. Explore chess.com/events today on web or with our iOS and Android apps and experience chess like never before.
This might be a draw. Oh my god! What?
It's a win in the rook.
Beautiful! He's got this in the bag.
We have a winner, Magnus Carlsen.
Limley makes it through.
Oh! Oh!
Is a draw so close for Hikaru Nakamura.
Welcome back, everyone. This is FIDE Women's Candidates Final 2023. Lei Tingjie against Tan Zhongyi in the game 3 is now in progress. They do have few pieces on the board, just obstacle color bishop and the pawns. This game is gonna continue still because players cannot make a draw before 40 moves, and we're gonna use this time to dive into some of the information and the details into the chess players. Alexander, let's now take a look at Lei Tingjie's profile and check a little bit more information about her. So recently, she became 26 years old, youngest participant in this two people's match, and she is the woman 2020 2017 Women's Chinese Chess Champion. She won the Women's Grand Swiss Tournament in 2021. That's how she qualified to the Candidates Tournament, and she earned the Grandmaster title at the age of 19. But Alexander, you mentioned that at some point when she was at the peak of her career, she just disappeared and she didn't play that much of the games. And that's actually is, at least we're not aware of that. Maybe she played few of the tournaments, which is not out there in the statistics. But yeah, that's very interesting decision to make, to
Well,
reach the peak
it
and then quit for a while.
Well, it was not her decision to make again. I mean, it was not up to her to decide, unfortunately, since China, as we mentioned, got basically closed, and it was not possible at all to leave the country, or very hard. So she managed to get the special permission to travel like once a year to qualification tournaments she needed, and that was it basically. But it was still enough for her, one tournament per year, to get to this final match of the candidates, and now she might be able to qualify for a world championship match. So despite the fact that she wasn't playing a lot abroad, at least she managed to fulfill this long qualification path that needed for a player to have a possibility to fight for a world championship title.
Yeah, that's true. But here we are at this place, hoping that the thing's gonna be back in normal life, or even better changes, and these two players from now on side to side. Obstacle color bishop endgame should be quite peaceful. Let's now take a look at the tournament bracket of the candidates tournament to check it out once again, who they have faced. Lei Tingjie has been played in Pool B, and she won against Muzachuk's sisters. First round was Maria, and another game was against Anna Muzachuk that was back in Monaco. And Tan Zhongyi, on the other hand, won against Katerina Lachno and then Alexandra Gorechkina. Tan Zhongyi was in a great shape in this tournament, and the game against Alexandra Gorechkina didn't even went to the tie breaks. She won this match in the classical portion, and that's how we got these two players in the final of the candidates tournament. And once again, Ju Wenjun is awaiting to the world championship match. So all these tournaments is the cycle of the world championship match, and we are getting very close to the finish, because
Finally, because again, when you go to this world championship cycle of FIDE site where it like explains in very detail with pictures, with everything, it's the cycle of 2020 2023, right? So it's already, because of the pandemic, it's been prolonged for 1 year. So usually it's every 2 years we're supposed to have this world championship match. Now the last match, as we already discussed today, was played back in January 2022 between Ju Wenjun and Alexandra Gorechkina. And yeah, we were talking a lot about age, but I must mention that, the youngest players of all in these candidates matches was Alexandra Gorechkina. Well, she's 2 years younger than Lei. She's 24 years old. So we cannot say that Lei is the youngest one of all. And there is another Chinese player who is rising very fast and who is leading, who's one of the leaders now in the New Delhi third leg of the Grand Prix series that is taking place these days. It's Ju Wenjun. She's just 20. So young players are approaching. And in the next cycle, that's actually has started already, right? This Grand Prix series that we're talking about, it's a qualification pass for the 2024 women's candidates. It's going to happen in April in Toronto. It was already announced by FIDE a few days ago. So we are now, this year, we're playing this Grand Prix series, and there's going to be a World Cup in Baku, then the Grand Swiss and Isle of Man at the end of the year. And out of these three qualification tournaments, there are going to be winners who are going to qualify for the FIDE candidates in 2024. And then this winner of that candidates 2024 are going to play the winner of the match Ju Wenjun versus one of these players. And we saw, let's have a look at the board, because actually I think the game is headed to a draw. We saw Tan play g3, and this move I think kind of indicated that she's okay with a draw, because the only plan that I was able to think of for white to play with this extra pawn, it was the plan connected with g4 breakthrough and trying to have two passed pawns on the board. Because when you have two passed pawns on the board, it's the only chance, basically. Well, not the only chance, but your chances to win this kind of endgame rise dramatically. Well, right here, right now, white has just one passed pawn. Black's bishop is totally controlling this diagonal and this square. And as we've already discussed, there is no way to, white can get through, right? We analyzed some line where white gets to this pawn, she wins it, although with the pawn on h7's hard. Then she kind of plays h3, exchanges one pawn, she plays g4, exchanges another one, and even if she wins this bishop, if white forces this bishop to be sacrificed with this pawn, it's still gonna be a draw, because unfortunately for white, the square of a8 is the opposite color squares of this bishop, and we know that in such situation, this is a theoretical draw.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, according what Alexandra just demonstrated, there is actually no practical chance to draw this game unless some dramatic blunders happen.
To win this
We
game,
have
yes.
seen blunders the other two games, but those were cause of the time issue. And at this point, these two players are having very nice time on the clock: 37 minutes for Lei Tingjie and 24 minutes for Zhongyi. So we will basically not gonna see that. The chance to see that, it's very slim in this match. Move 35, do you think, Alexandra, after move 40, when they have right to offer each other draw, they will agree on a draw, or do you think that Tan will still try to create some danger to black side?
Well, I mean, she might make a few more moves, but it seems that she's already agreed on the draw, at least in her head. Again, this g3 move was kind of a clear indication that she's okay with this result. I mean, she is not going to try to do something crazy, like sacrificing a few pawns in order to create another pass pawn. And again, even if she would play h3, g4, and sacrifice sacrifices g pawn and create this pass pawn on the e file, there are just not enough pawns left. Black should be able to exchange this h pawn, sacrifice the bishop for the e pawn, and stop the a pawn with the king, and it's a draw.
Yeah, seems like to be a draw. They're still taking some time to double check, as they're not in rush to end the game. even though that it might be the middle of the day right there, if not evening in China. But they have a day off tomorrow, and they can have some time for rest. They can have some time to get a better preparation than these days. So they might still take some time rather than to make draw in next two moves. Alexandra, do you can recall any of your games which was the longest in your chess career, and how many moves, if you can remember?
Well, I mean, I've played some crazy game against Laurent Fressinet. I think even when you look up for like in Google for the longest chess games in history, there gonna be this game mentioned. But it was a rapid game, and we were playing Rook and Bishop versus Rook endgame, and for some reason, Laurent decided not to claim a draw because it was a rapid game and she had some accident with Victor Korchnoi a little bit earlier in the tournament. So he kept playing and playing and playing until I won this game. And it was like 200, some 37 moves or something like that. But I think nowadays online, you
but
can
Alexandra,
find,
hold on. This very interesting topic, always very confusing for many people, especially at World Rap Team Bleeds. So let's say you played 200 moves. So the rule is that after 50 moves, you can claim a draw when you're a chess player.
50 moves with no exchanges and no pawn moves, yes.
And if you don't claim, then it is arbiter who has
After
to
75 moves, an arbiter must
interfere.
Should
he did
claim a
not.
draw.
But then when it's move 200 something and it's one move away to be checkmated, could your opponent stop the clock and claim to calculate the moves?
Of course.
And agree on a draw. That
Of
was
course,
still an option, right?
Of course. That should be done. But again, Laurent just didn't feel like claiming a draw at all, and it was a friendly, rapid event. But there were other events. For example, I remember in this World Championship 2018 that I mentioned today in November that Ju Wenjun eventually won. There was a match between Maria Muzachuk and, I believe, Jinsaya Abdumalik, probably. There was a match, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very long match, a very tense match. It was 1-1 after classical part of the match. Then they went on to play rapid and then blitz. But there was some kind of situation when these players were playing something like rook and knight versus rook endgame, or knight rook versus knight, well, something drawish, right? And they played and played and played, of course, on seconds. And then one player made this fatal mistake, and she just resigned without trying to claim this 50 moves, because you should always do that. You have this right to stop your clock before giving away a rook or being checkmated. You can stop your clock, call the arbiter, and say that I claim a draw according to this 50 moves rule. And if there were 50 moves, the arbiter must declare it a draw.
Oh wow, so interesting. And it's so necessary to know chess rules.
Actually, I love this kind of discussion because I love reading some arbiters' columns, discussing these rare and contradictory cases. I think it would be very useful, to have some kind of articles and some kind of video on YouTube's like this, discussing, for example, in the recent World Rapid and Blitz Championship, right, in Almaty, there were so many moments like very tense moments and exciting moments like this, which brought a lot of drama, a lot of discussions, a lot of and there are videos with such moments that, for example, an arbiter can take and go through it, we analyze our games, right? And I think that would be wonderful to analyze what actually had happened during this moment, how the arbiter reacted, how the players reacted, how the public reacted, because it was terrible, sometimes to watch. There is like a very tense moment, the players arguing, the arbiter is calling the chief arbiter, and then there are some kind of spectators who dive into and start giving their advice and say what to do and what not to do. It's such a mess. And in other words, it's very useful to know rules.
It
and
is. Yeah.
Of course, we professional chess players supposed to know rules, but there are some very trick moments that even once I was solving a trivia like this. For example, like you're about to checkmate your opponent in one move. Like your opponent has just one legal move that's gonna lead to a checkmate, right? The position that, well, just any move, okay, any move your opponent has is gonna lead to a checkmate for sure. But you run out of time. What result should be declared? I mean, you don't have time, but we know that if you are to checkmate your opponent, right, you win your game despite the clock. I mean, if there is a checkmating move, if it's your turn to move, then like it's a win, even if you run out of time. But in that case, okay, you run out of time earlier, but I mean, your opponent is kind of almost checkmated. So there are many like 3 questions like this that
And what's the correct answer? I would say lost.
I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure. It's depending on the position. Yes, it depending on the position and depending if there are any pawns left, etc., etc. For example, I'm mad always, all the time, on chess.com when I play, and there are like I have 2 knights versus king left, and the game is declared a draw. And I say, come on, guys, I have 2 extra knights. I know it's a draw, but it's possible to checkmate. And according to chess rules, I mean, the game should continue to FIDE, right? Official chess rules. The game should go on for 50 moves, and then if my opponent doesn't make like a blunder, it's a draw. I know that's like usually. Then also on chess.com, I think there are certain moments, like for example, if you have a knight versus a rook. So according to the FIDE official rules, if there is a possibility to give a checkmate, in that case, like it's possible, right? Rook b8, king a8, king a6, knight c7. It's possible to create a position where a weaker side gives a checkmate. So again, according to the FIDE official rules, you have 50 moves you can play, and if you win on time, you won it. But on chess.com, I think again, the game declared a draw, and it drives me crazy. I don't like it because
that's actually very interesting.
When
topic,
you have a
Alexandra.
bishop versus a rook, it's a draw, and it's so sad because bishops are usually stronger than knights, right? They consider, but in blitz game, knights are stronger than bishops, and so on and so on. And actually, the rules are changing; they keep changing all the time. So it used to be one illegal move loses a game, a blitz game, and now I think they changed it, and one illegal move is just a warning. And
I would like to ask to our chat what they think about this rule. Meanwhile, we will go back to this illegal move, but you guys think that is it like we have 2 rules, the one which a FIDE tournament has, and if there is a practical chance that you can checkmate your opponent with 2 knights or with 1 knight against rook, and you flag, you're gonna lose. Or then we have another rules which we play tournaments on chess.com where this is the let's say draw end game. It's fixed in a draw if you flag. What you guys think? Which approach would you like to have more if you are your own, like you play your own tournament, if you're a participant by yourself? Share the thoughts with that, because it is always like divided the thoughts. Alexandra, if you remember this World Championship or Drop It and Blitz tournament, Carlsen against Ali Reza was such a big thing. Ali Reza was winning the game. He was completely won, but then he just lost on time. And they agreed on a draw, I guess, at the beginning. And then
at the beginning, what do you mean at the beginning?
Like they agreed on a draw, and the kings were seated in the middle, and there was a bit of chats from the spectators, and it's like you're winning, Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus Carlsen was, oh, hold on, I'm winning here. And then there was the big argument about that. Ali Reza even brought this case to the appeals committee, and it resulted as Magnus won the game because there was a chance to win with only bishop against several pawns. So it was a huge thing, really
So
huge
probably
thing.
they didn't agree on the draw, because if there was a draw offer and they agreed on a draw, then it should be declared as a draw. But if just the players thought that it's for example, Alireza ran out of time, and but they thought that it's not possible theoretically to win, and then they realized it was, then
Yeah, and this topic that you mentioned, two illegal moves. If you can recall this tournament, World Rapid in Blitz again, Magnus Carlsen
versus
against
an
Inak.
Kiev. Yeah, that was
Inak, yeah.
terrible. I remember pretty vividly, because I remember leaving the playing hall and seeing in Kiev like very happy and very proud of himself, giving an interview that he played against Magnus Carlsen and he just won. And I thought, wow, wonderful. I mean, winning against Magnus Carlsen, I understand his feelings, and I feel very happy for him. But then I learned and how it happened, and it was not nothing to be proud of, and it was such a huge scandal. Yeah, because Magnus, I think, was completely winning, and I don't remember but I think
I remember because
Inarkiv made an illegal move.
I was commentating that. I'll tell you the
Yeah.
situation. So it was Magnus was having big advantage, and he gave a check, and Inarkiev just ignored the check, and he gave it a counter check. So both kings were on a check, and Magnus moved the king away,
Right.
and his king was under check still, and he stopped the clock and said, "This is double illegal move. I claim for win."
Yeah.
And the arbiter said, "Okay." So the game was ended. We were doing this live commentary, and usually rapid games are not lasting like this one, right? So we said goodbye. We came back for another round, and there's no one in the playing venue, and we're sitting really far away from the room. We had no idea what's going on there, what happened, but it's something is wrong because like everybody like there's a group of people and like fighting or doing some weird things. It lasted for 2 or 3 hours. That was
Yeah.
the longest
Well, a
stay
little bit
there.
less than that, but because we
It was
continued the game, but it was long.
so difficult. Yeah, very difficult. They couldn't make the decision, and it was always, and after that tournament, FIDE changed the rule to what we have now. And after making illegal move, now we do have this rule that you are getting first 2 minutes on the clock, and then you are getting lost, right? After
Yeah.
one turn. Yeah.
One time is warning. Yeah, the second one is lost. But yeah, I remember this situation, and I thought, oh my gosh. But because when you play those online games and you have a completely winning positions, there are some people who make this kind of moves, putting like a queen under the direct attack or a rook like under a rook. They always do those kind of swindles. And sometimes if you make a pre-move, you kind of lose your piece and you may lose the game. And I'm always, come on, okay, if you win in such a fashion, what does it bring to you? I mean, what I just cannot understand this kind of thing. Does it make you feel better? I mean, to trick your opponent so dirty, and then what? Okay, some people enjoy it. Some people enjoy it. I hate when people doing it. They do it pretty often, I must say, in online events. But when they start doing it in over the board events, it just, for me, okay. Now time changed. I live in a completely different era, because again, when I was starting to play chess, it was such, like, we had some certain like ethics standards that
Oh, yeah.
we had always to respect our opponent. We had to make sure not to like stare at him or her, not to disturb him. I mean, play this fair game. Like, I don't know, we felt that this kind of part of chess that we were brought into this manner, and now seeing quite the opposite kind of shocks
Whatever
me a
brings
lot.
you a point, go for it. I also feel the same way, Alexandra. It also pisses me off very much when something like that happens in the practice. That's so difficult when you have like different approach and the opponent has another, but like you can't really control. And chess is a lot of like nerve games. Sometimes you cannot just
No, of
even
course,
control
of
your
course.
emotions.
I understand everything. I've been
Very
through
interesting
many.
case. Very
Right.
interesting case. I'm sure you know you know this. And let me read it out. In 2018 Women's World Chess Championship tournament, the one that Kosternik won, there was some
Yes.
controversy in the Armageddon game between Monika Sochko and Sabina
Yes.
Feutzer. It was two knights against king, and Sabina ran out the time. The game was declared a draw because Sochko did not force checkmate, but she made an appeal, and the result was changed to lose for Sabina, and Sochko advanced to the next result. Yeah,
Well,
I
it's
kind
not
of
only
heard of
like this,
that.
right? The problem is that it was the Armageddon game. And we remember what chaos it can be. We remember
Mm.
the recent like World Cup 2021, and that was sadly
Yeah,
famous Armageddon game between
Anna
Badelka and
Matnadze.
Matnadze.
Yeah.
And now I think they changed the rule because of that. There's not going to be any more Armageddon games with no increment or something like that. I think they're about to change it because,
Mhm.
well, when there is no increment and when your qualification to the next stage is at stage, I mean, okay. Pieces start flying, arbiters have no clue what to do. I mean, players just press the button whatever the position is, and it's such a nonsense, right, for a classical tournament, for a serious tournament that have status of the qualification for the candidates to like become such a farce. So yeah, it's even quite hard for a blitz tournament to witness like this in a blitz tournament, and it's so much harder to witness something like that in a world championship level tournament. So yeah,
Mm.
but okay, again, there are many, despite the fact that chess is a very objective game, right? There no judges to evaluate the aesthetics of your move. Okay, imagine a panel of judges like giving you evaluations every time you make a move, and then out of all those evaluations the winner is declared. That would be funny, huh? Like the way the
Mhm.
figure skating or boxing even matches sometimes proceed. But yeah, in
True.
chess we are kind of used to the fact that we are in control of most of the things, right? The game we play according to the rules. There are no jokers or aces to bring out of your pocket, so we know what to expect. But even here, there are sometimes very tricky moments, and when arbiters should intervene, when there are some hard decisions to make, because okay, some situation, certain situation where in the FIDE handbook it's written, so it's up to the arbiter to decide,
Yeah.
right, according and evaluating of what's going on, etc. So quite an interesting topic, and again, I would love to see more discussion like this, more videos from arbiters analyzing videos from the recent tournaments, especially Rapid and Blitz, explaining what had been done wrongly, what had been done correctly, if the arbiter took the correct decision or not, and so on. And while we've discussed already so many topics, the game is
Such a
still
big problematic topic because they're still having the same position, Alexandra. But the time for Zhongyi is now dropping down to 10 minutes, even less than 10 minutes. There is
yeah,
nothing
but
to worry about that
Mhm.
because we have not even reached 40 moves. They're going to get 30 minutes of increment. This is move 39. Earlier, Chad was worried about King E5 ideas, but we guys have already demonstrated even if the H pawn is gone, there's no way white can break through the very strong pawn structure in the bishop on b4, e4. Sorry.
Yeah, so I expect them to make a few more moves and agree on a draw. And it's like perfect timing. They're gonna agree on a draw, and this next round of the New Delhi FIDE Women's Grand Prix just started, round number 6. So you can just go ahead and watch. For more exciting games of the women's chess, there are many interesting encounters today, and definitely I'm going to keep an eye on these games as well. So a lot
Yeah,
of
of
women's
course, of
games.
course. A lot of tournaments. We mentioned that the European Championship has just ended, but 2 tournaments is still in progress. Very important topics that we were just discovering right now, and anyone needs to know. Even world champion Magnus Carlsen has been in so many situations when there was a need of appeals decision. So it's always good to know the rules. But I don't know, Alexandra. I have my personal opinion is that I wish to have more arbiters who can make strong decisions, like they can make decisions, because
Even if those decisions are completely wrong.
then you can appeal, then you can like the problem is that what I see is that some of the arbiters are not very certain of their decisions, or they are afraid to make the decision, let the players appeal. When you are not making decisions and you are asking the other arbiter, another arbiter, other arbiter, it just stuff the process and upsets everyone. So that's how I feel to have more competent arbiters would solve a lot of problems.
But again, this confidence, it comes from your knowledge. Often
Yeah, I agree
in
with
chess and in arbiter things, in everything. I mean, if you are not sure, if you're not sure about the rules, if you don't know what to do, if you're again, yeah, it brings problems.
I agree. One of the ridiculous things I have seen recently was at the World of the Blitz, a tournament when there was some situation in the game of my very good friend Ahmed Adli against a young participant.
Yeah,
I
you can
don't
find
really
it
know
online.
who it is out there. And okay, whatever happened, but it was, for me, was very ridiculous to see that the journalist approach, I think from Norway TV, approached the players and interviewed during the game.
Yeah, during the
That
incident.
was
Yes, that
that
was terrible.
was the I don't know how even to describe that state, because I want to be very polite. But
I think it's a
by the
draw,
way, the
yes.
game has been ended, right? They are
Mhm.
signing the scores. I think they have reached 40 moves, and it was time to, I agree, on a draw.
Well, Lei offered to draw, and indeed, as a game was declared a draw, you saw arbiters approaching, making sure that 40 moves have been played, and only then they kind of allowed players to sign the score sheet. Well, a very interesting game in the opening. Quite a lot of things happening at the beginning of it. A lot of insights for both players to prepare for the second half of the match, because we just saw three first exciting games. The score is even 1.5 to 1.5. That means just 3 games are left. So every single game, as the finish approaches, kind of getting more and more valuable, more and more pressure, and more blunders to expect, because there were quite a few in the first 2 games. Well, that should make us as commentators and spectators excited and ready to continue this journey along with the players. Tomorrow is the rest day, the one and only rest day for the players and for the commentators and for the spectators of this match as well. But from the 2nd of April, right? On Sunday, we're gonna see each other back again in this studio, and we will
Home
continue.
studio.
Yes, we will continue with pleasure. Look, uh, follow this match, follow these games, discuss all the chess-related topics. Katie,
Yeah. There's
how's it going? I mean, the first part of the match is behind us already.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it was very exciting moments, and I can only blame Dania for this draw.
Okay, yeah.
Because every time he joined us, it was hitting up, and it was the right moment. And today he did not join us, for sure. The reasons that is understandable, but let's blame him. He's not here. He will never know that we blamed him. But the game was actually very interesting from the openings perspective, and I'm sure you guys might find it interesting to go for it because it has a lot of tricks and some of the moments that if your opponent don't know how to deal with it, you can win a lot of games actually if you know exactly how to play. So very much recommended to look through all these 3 games that has been played. We're gonna take deserved rest because Alexandra, we were waking up really early together with our team who is putting this show together. So I think the second part of the tournament will be very exciting because these 2 players wants to win the match before the tie breaks, because in the tie breaks no one knows who's the favorite. They're equally, both of them, very strong rapid and blitz players, and we're gonna have both of these components in the tie breaks. Guys, it's now final goodbye from our side. We'll see you in 2 days. Please come back and watch the rest of the games. Bye bye.
Have a good weekend.